Okay, Robin, I've unmuted. You should be able to hear me, hopefully. You can see me. I'm going to turn these mics on. We go around the room to get some sound. Let's see.
Check 1 2 3. Check 1 2 3. Excellent. I got your text. You see it here. Now, just to confirm, is it going full screen with this room once you hear audio from it? Check 1 2 3. Check 1 2 3. Excellent. That's what I wanted to hear. And last mic in here, around the table, 1 2 3.
Okay, and now this is the podium mic. Podium mic, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. And now I'm going to just zoom in. Just let me know if you can see that, if everything's going smoothly there. Going into the flag. And then over to the Viking. Everything is the right side up, correct? And I'm going to widen back out again. Okay. Great. I got your messages. That is awesome. I am going to mute in here. Yeah, I'm going to mute in here right now if you want to put the slate up, and then we'll come back and get things set up about 5:25 after. Thank you.
want to take the captain's chair. How you doing, Mark?
Mike's in charge.
Hi.
How you doing, Nicole?
Good, thanks. Have you
We
been?
chatted very
Good to
quickly
see you.
last
See you.
week.
My new way. I don't want to
No,
do
you're fine.
Right.
Yeah.
I still love you. No, I'm good. Sorry. Yeah. But thank you.
I signed up on the blue one. Welcome me. I'll do the postmortem.
You might want to take this back.
Okay, let's see. So.
Thank you very much.
I'm good, thank
Figure
you.
this out.
I know, according to
Yes, I did answer.
Glenn, I think you violated your policy. which is-
Violated the situation.
Nope. It's too late now, I'm already.
Yep, just to let you know.
That's so
Halloween
was fun.
Ted, how are you? Good, how are you?
Busy but good, thank you. Yeah, I had a topic.
Oh, I don't know, because I never logged into that.
So from. Hey. I had to remember to bring my glasses. By the end of the day, it's hard to see things. It's that old lady thing.
No, I've
And
had,
with the mask, it doesn't work so well.
I've had glasses since I extra contacts,
Me too.
so I like, it's
Nothing. It happens overnight when all of a sudden you're like doing the, yeah, I can't see.
I've never known that.
Wait till you get older, yeah, you're young.
No, I can see nothing.
Oh,
Without my contacts, since kindergarten,
me too.
so, but Brian's getting at least some this.
Where's the money?
Yeah. Oh, my. Yeah, we decided,
You gonna try it the next year?
you know, my eyes are so big that I don't know how effective it costs them. And I know nothing else that are in contacts.
Me too, I've had them since seventh grade.
Why mess with, you know?
These come in handy as you get older.
I'm blind without contacts, so.
No, I'm here tomorrow.
Ronnie.
Liz and Jen.
I'd like to call the public session to order and begin with the pledge to the flag, please.
Thanks to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic.
Public.
One
One
nation.
nation.
America. Indivisible. with liberty and justice.
Justice for all.
For roll call this evening, we have Glenn Boba, trustee, Jay Grover, trustee, Nicole Novak, trustee, Jude Kuhn, district clerk, Dr. Brian Graham, superintendent, and Ashley Dreyer, president, Sue Marston, vice president. With us via Zoom, we have Joy Lamarca, trustee, and is Robin up there? I can't see. She's here, Robin McCreary, trustee, there she is. And we have Cheryl Cardone, assistant superintendent for pupil personnel services, and we also have Dr. Ruby Harris, assistant superintendent for business and finance. Just a couple of announcements, make sure that you silence your cell phones. And there are emergency exits directly behind me and directly in front of me in case we need to leave in an emergency. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda for this evening, November 9th, 2020, please. And a second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any, okay. So, everybody's in favor. All right, approval of minutes. If I could have a motion to approve the minutes for October 26th, please. And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any nays? Any abstentions? Motion carried, 7-0. And we have a couple student ambassadors with us this evening. The first from Veronica County Middle School is Brooke Christensen. Is she on Zoom?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brooke Christensen, and I am the president of Student Council at the middle school. Today, I would love to tell you all about what is happening. So this year, we have to be very careful of how we plan events because we want to keep everyone safe and include everyone in our fun. So far, we have done the trick-or-treat Halloween event. And how this worked was during your lunch, you could go up to a table and you could choose a treat of cookies, soft pretzels, or popcorn. And we also bought lunch for all of the middle school staff to show our appreciation to them. We have started planning some events that everyone, including the virtual kids, can do. Usually we have our holiday assembly, but this year our plans, as of right now, are to watch a movie and at the end of the day, using an assembly schedule, and student council will come around with snacks. Thank you so very much for letting me come tell you all about what is happening at the middle school.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
And in senior high school, we have Riley Weber.
Hi, I'm Riley Weber. So I'm a junior and co-captain with Haley Coombs of the girls varsity tennis team. And our girls varsity tennis team was very excited to have an abbreviated season along with the soccer, golf, and cross-country teams. Many of our other sports teams have been tentatively moved their seasons to the spring. And the boys soccer team won the NFL championship last Thursday, and the girls lost a close one to Niagara Wheatfield. I'm here to speak on behalf of the girls tennis team's successful return to the season. We had a strong showing with our return to our new courts that now include a showcase court that is in memoriam to Mrs. Neville, the former girls tennis coach who passed away from breast cancer. Although we had a delayed start, we were able to compete against the 7 different schools that make up the Niagara Frontier League. We were successful in that we placed second in the league, and we had a strong showing at the Section 6 sectionals. The Grand Island tennis team was represented by 4 players: Kirsten Brown, first singles, Riley Weber, second singles, and Haley and Mia Schiffmacher combined to represent the first doubles team. Kirsten and I were ranked respectively as number 1 and number 2 in the NFL. Kirsten placed 3rd at the Section 6 sectional play at Miller Tennis Center, while Mia, Haley, and myself only competed in the first round of matches. Unfortunately, the competition in the Section 6 sectionals was very tough. We enjoyed the competition and were grateful for the opportunity to represent our school. Due to COVID-19, there were no states after sectionals this year. The girls' tennis team would also like to personally thank Coach Prey for his time, dedication, and his ability to overcome COVID challenges and his ability to foster the love for the sport in all levels and abilities of play. Thank you.
Thank you, Riley, and congratulations. Now on to the public comment session, agenda items only. At this time, public comments are invited from individuals who desire to address the Board of Education on any topic which is on the agenda. Residents who have previously signed up to speak will be recognized by the president. When speaking, please identify yourself first. Speak clearly and loudly enough for everyone in the room to hear you. Speakers are requested to limit their remarks to no more than 3 minutes. To appoint a spokesperson if a concern is a group concern, and if necessary or desired, to supplement verbal presentations. Personal comments toward a member of the community, staff, or Board of Education will not be considered appropriate. First on our list for this evening is Jennifer Bainey.
Good evening, my name is Jennifer Bainey. If you don't know me, I wear many hats, which hopefully will help my words to carry some credibility as I speak to you tonight. I'm your town councilwoman, a mom of children in the school district at the primary and intermediate level, which is a very important distinction. A 10-year public school teacher with a master's degree in literacy before staying home and raising my kids and then serving our town. Meaning I, as well as my husband, who continues to teach, are also NISET members. So we recognize the challenges and nuance to a lot of what you are facing in your decisions. I'm here simply tonight to remind you of 2 things. The first is the power that you have in your ability to speak truth to power. The difference in effective, impactful leadership and the standard leadership that we see is often the ability to stand up or stand out. Be first. Say what others are not saying. Dr. Graham spoke recently on the video to the parents about how he and the entire board want children back in school. Say that. Express that. When you communicate with Dr. Burstein in the Erie County Department of Health, speak beyond simply infection rates. Push back as you see fit about concerns related to mental health and educational regression. This does not call on only you. Advocate for what you feel is right. Again, Dr. Graham shared that you and all of the administrators have binders containing all of the anecdotal comments from the parents about how their children are doing. Asking for that information, which was your choice, now requires action. I kindly request this of you. For the areas where state guidelines make sense and are in the best interest of children, certainly stay the course. However, in the areas where you know improvements and changes are needed, speak up. Be first. Speak truth to power. Don't be afraid to be told no. Advocate for what is right. And secondly, please be progressive in your approach with your youngest learners. All of you are either trained in childhood development or are parents, so you know children have very different needs at age 5 versus age 18. A virtual model for your primary age children, though well-intentioned and carefully crafted, is not appropriate or effective for children of that age. We see districts across this region recognizing the differences in students of varying ages and returning the younger students to school first or at a greater capacity. Why were we not first with this, especially with a building dedicated to primary level instruction? The schedule may have looked different, but we all know that children at that age are already very different. We know there is a great chance of schools closing due to cluster cells of COVID. As a board, you can agree to stand by and agree with that plan, or you can speak truth to power and work to negotiate what is best for our community and others. It is very easy to simply write off a challenge to the larger system as a waste of time and unlikely effective. However, when it comes to our students, as much as it depends on you, please be the voice we need you to be. You have so much more power than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Erin is next.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very, very much. This is the only school district my kids know, and there's amazing talent here, amazing teachers, faculty, administrators, whatever. But when will our kids stop being casualties? Okay? Who in this room honestly thinks that the district has done all they could for our kids? All they could. No, I don't agree with that either. Does anybody have an application up there for me for a part-time position? Because that's where I'm at. I'm passing up overtime at my job. My wife's taking days off of work so we can teach our kids. Plus the tutor I have at home as well. Right? I wish the union president was here because I like to talk to him as well. All right, so the COVID outbreak's here. It's going to happen, right? All the kids get screened, right? 100% of the kids get screened? Do 100% of the adults walking in your building get screened? Good. Do they not go through the back door? The contractors get screened? Everybody gets screened? My kids tell me that their lunch period is cut short and they sit down with masks on for an extra, I think it's only a half hour, but 10 minutes left, they sit there and quiet. Their teachers reprimand them for speaking and socializing with their cohorts, whatever, their classmates. Sorry. Well, what is this? They're traumatized enough as it is, right? So there's no doubt about it, we're headed for a shutdown. There's no doubt about it. We'll be at home virtual. So what's the plan? What's the plan? I'm not asking anymore. I want to see my kids engaging. If they're at home, if they're engaging on those Chromebooks with their teachers for live teaching sessions. Not me. I'm the last person you want teaching. Right? I'm sure many of us could agree. I don't have education. I don't have an education, a background education. Right? Anything less than that is really unacceptable. I don't mean Zoom meetings either, because those just take up time in the day. An actual live lesson as if they were in the classroom, right? All right, so
30 seconds.
yeah, you brought up Gail Burstein. The Erie County Health Department and the county itself left all of us in the wind. Not a plan. You guys deal with it. No, you have no money. They're not going to send you money for the testing. So, what do you have to lose? A gigantic pushback. I don't know what's being held over anyone's head, or what power they allegedly have. Right?
Next we have Chris.
My name is Chris Remus. This is what my child gets when they come home. This is the second tablet we've been through. There's assignments on her sheet for the weekly schedule every week that are constantly missing from the iPad. It's a colossal headache to go back and forth. The Seesaw apps, we've been going back and forth now for a month on, and nobody can get them to work. So I don't know how my child is supposed to learn when the school cannot even get her tablet to function properly. It's been far too long, and I'm sure other kids are suffering from the exact same thing. And I'm sick and tired of hearing there's nothing we can do about it. There's always something you can do about it. You guys are operating within a box. You need to think outside the box. We passed a budget this year with all sorts of money for athletic fields, and we might not even be able to use. Should an amended budget have been passed out after that, saying, hey, we're going to take some money, put money aside, forget those improvements for now, we're going to put the money on education. We're going to look for buildings that we can host classes in. We're going to hire additional teachers. There's plenty of space on this island to send kids where you can be separated. And you guys are just saying no, no, no. You need to be thinking outside the box to bring the best solution here. The other thing about the tablets is going in and out of apps. There's programs that they make. Schoolology. Kids' assignments are all listed. You click your assignment for the day, it brings you right into the app. You finish it. Click assignment 2. Takes you right into the app. The fact that we're not streamlined is you can't ask a second grader to go in and out of apps on a tablet to navigate through web pages. It doesn't work like that. I'm sure most of you know, because most of you all have small kids, you can't do it. My father sits there in his 60s, he has issues doing it. Unless you're home with your kids, you have no option. Tutor, I'm spending a heck of a lot of money in taxes, and now I'm spending extra money on a tutor because you guys can't figure out the best way to get our kids the education that they deserve.
30 seconds.
And I'm spending it there. Thank you.
All right. Is it too late to speak? I never signed up. Can I? Sure. Thank you.
Can we just ask you to sign?
Yes.
When did?
Write it out.
Good. Already did sign. Just so we have it on record.
Hi, my name is Julie D'Angelo. I have 2 children in middle school. I echo all the things that everyone has already said. My first thought was, why am I coming tonight? It's a losing battle. What are we doing? Okay, clearly we're about to get shut down. What is our plan? We've talked about the possibility of us being shut down before the school year even started. So I expect to see a laid out plan of what we are doing. I agree with what you guys said as far as why are we not looking outside the box? We've said we don't have the money to hire more staff. We have the staff. It takes, as you all know, we're streaming live right now. I could be teaching one thing. Now, why can't we have, let's say, a math teacher teach the math class, and then there's other faculty in the buildings that could be used as maybe the aides. I'm not saying to have them not do a position that they aren't able to do, but I feel like our resources could be used in other ways. I'm not suggesting anyone to have a pay cut. They could be doing other things. I feel like it's absolutely ridiculous the amount of time that's being spent on gym projects. I'm sorry, that is not a priority right now. My son should not be having to do gym projects. Do they get to play? I want them to have recess. Of course I do. But right now, that's not a priority. They already have a shortened school time. When they get home, they're outside playing every second they can. I don't need them to be doing it while we have a shortened time of school. It's ridiculous. We have the money, we need to find a way to make it and allocate it elsewhere. We have how many music teachers? I'm all about music. I'm all about all of these programs. But right now, it's not the top priority. Have those teachers helping these kids with technology figure it out. I know we're all frustrated, but what are we doing? What are the meetings that you guys are having when we're not here? I want to hear all the brainstorming ideas. Let us figure out, can it not work? Why can't it work? What is the money that we need to have raised? People do fundraisers all the time. Do we need to make, I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent, but there's so many things to talk about. Why aren't we talking about them? Thank you, but that's just so frustrating. And I'm not the only one, and I'm disappointed that more people are not here because I know other people feel this way too. So thank you for letting me speak.
Nicole, yeah, can you sign the launches? Thank you. Okay, moving on to curriculum and instruction. We have some information regarding January.
You signed the other sheet.
Yep, you're on Nicole, are you Nicole?
Yeah.
You are on the Voice of the People general items, and that's coming up
Forgive me, I thought we were closing the poll.
in a little bit.
All right, I'll stop.
Thank you, no, in a little bit.
We'll get you.
I got you, thank you so much.
Okay, so curriculum and instruction, we have the information from professional development on election day.
Sure, yeah. And I also want to thank John Fitzpatrick and Felicia Palachi, who led the staff development committee. John or Felicia, if you're online, I'll just go over some of the topics, and if you want to add anything, that would be great. At our staff development day, our teachers engaged in a variety of topics. Some of them included 9 ways that online learning is different from face-to-face, and that was presented by Melanie Kitchen from Erie One BOCES. Tips and tricks for Google Classroom, also presented by Melanie Kitchen. Making the most of Google Meets, also presented by Melanie Kitchen. And she came back and did another session, making thinking visible, using various tools in the virtual online world. Also, Cheryl Cardone and Jessica Hutchings put together a presentation on sexual abuse, and that was in collaboration with Horizon Human Services, I believe, and that was to meet the mandate that all of our faculty and staff receive education on a new law called Aaron's Law. I'd like to just touch base with John Fitzpatrick or Felicia if you wanted to add anything about the work that your committee did.
Thanks, Brian. I really want to commend the committee of teachers who participated in the PD development. Our goal was really to have a balance between providing teachers with instructional technology tools to use to improve their instruction virtually, with the required mandated trainings that we had to attend, such as Aaron's Law, and our elementary and middle school. Some of our middle school teachers had to attend iReady training for a new assessment tool to help us better understand where kids are at in math and in ELA. So I think overall it was a positive day. You know, people got to choose what they felt they really needed the most support in, as well as being able to attend those mandated trainings. So thanks to everyone involved.
Thank you, John. Any questions for us regarding that professional development session? Thank you. And Cheryl, just if you could just touch base on Aaron's Law and why that was so important for us to be able to have our faculty and staff involved in that presentation.
Yeah, so Aaron's Law has been, was a new New York State mandate that all staff, you know, faculty, staff, administrators needed to go through a sexual abuse training. And we did accomplish that on Superintendent's Conference Day. The administrators and the pupil personnel staff, along with the nurses, needed to have a precursor training prior to Superintendent's Conference Day. We had to be trained in 2 different modules. So we took one training on the 28th, and then this training as well. The next piece to it is that New York State law is saying that we need to make sure we train all of our students as well. So that will be forthcoming in the next couple of months to see how we're going to do that K to 12. So more to come on Aaron's Law. It was an excellent presentation. I believe I talked to John afterwards, and he said that everybody gave a lot of positive feedback about that. So thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. I want to turn it over to Mike Loria to give an update to the Board of Education regarding the recent announcement that the New York State Education Department will be canceling the January Regents exams. Mr. Loria. Hey, Mike. Oh, there. I think you're on with us. Mike, if you're with us, please, if you could just give the board an update on the recent announcement that January Regents exams are canceled.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. Yeah, sorry, I was on. I had forgot to unmute. Thank you. So yes, we did hear this week that January exams are no longer, which is, obviously a big decision that the state had to make. Typically, most of our students who would be taking January exams are those who were unsuccessful last year and in the summer, or those students who may have transferred from other districts with some needs in terms of assessments or from out of state. So what that basically means is that exemptions can be granted for any students who earn course credit between now and then. It's very similar to the process that happened back in June as well as in August. So our team will be looking closely at every single student who is signed up to take those exams. We'll be working with the families to attempt to get those students to earn course credit either through credit recovery or through repeating the course. And we often have an option when students repeat a course to earn their way out after half a year in 20 weeks in the January semester. So our counseling team is well aware. We're already on top of this. We've done this before, so we're pretty excited that we have at least some experience with this, and hopefully those students will step up their game, do what they're supposed to do academically between now and then, and therefore be exempt from those exams moving forward.
Mike, it's one. What steps, if any, is the district making to ensure that students who did not pass the exam last go around now have the requirements to pass the exam this go around?
So what we did over the summer, toward the end of the summer, was we reviewed every student that did not pass the state exams. We enrolled all of them in AIS and or credit recovery. We have taken some of our staff, for example, our instructional support team, which is our counselors, our administrators, and teachers, looked at each specific individual case and decided how to best schedule that child. So many of those students are scheduled in AIS, some of them are scheduled into our learning center, some of them are scheduled into credit recovery. So we do have a teaching assistant that manages our credit recovery program, that's Mr. Wales. So he has been following up by making phone calls and been in constant communication with each of those students, whether they're hybrid or whether they're remote. We've also had assistance from our in-school suspension teachers, teaching assistants, who have been working with a lot of these kids both virtually and in their rooms for students. And our AIS support is run out of our learning center, which has not only content teachers in there working with kids, as well as other teachers who sometimes are there just as extra support. So really what happens is, the unfortunate part right now is because of our schedule, the AIS classes are only meeting once every 2 weeks. But what we've decided to do is have some of our faculty specialists, as well as those support teachers I mentioned, reach out to those students at home, whether it's during a study hall, whether it's during a Wednesday when they're not scheduled to be in a class, and to give them the support that way. So hopefully they would be monitored and make sure that they're on track to be successful.
So can we say, Mike, without, definitiveness, but just generally speaking, that the kids are getting the same education that they would have had, but for the circumstances that we're in at this point in time?
They absolutely have the same opportunity. Yep, there's some challenges with some remote students and logging in and participation that we're trying to overcome. We have been, constantly reaching out to those families, but they absolutely have the same opportunity as everyone else. And those teachers are very, very willing and have been working above and beyond to try to get in touch with all of those kids.
Like with the cancellation of the January exam, so successful completion of these credit recovery and AIS, that'll be sufficient for an exemption? Good.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lorian. That's all I have under the curriculum.
Okay, moving on to personnel instructional. If I can have a motion to approve instructional PI1 through PI4, please. And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Any nays? Motion carried 7-0.
Just Ashley, just want to check in case we have anybody joining us remotely for introductions. So any of our principals, if you happen to have somebody to introduce, please let us know. All right.
Hi, everyone. This is Max Bakula. Hi. I'd like to introduce to you Kathleen Detmer. Kathleen, I think I see you there. You're there, correct? Yep, I see you. She's our newest teaching assistant at Huth Road, and I'd like to welcome her to the Huth Road family. She's a graduate of Canisius College and actually a graduate of Grand Island. And she served in the Army for 4 years, but she's taught in Maritime Charter School for 1, and she's continuing her career here at Huth Road, and we're just so excited to have her, and we're looking forward to working with her. So welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you.
And Max, are there anybody else?
I don't think there's anyone else.
Well, thank you, Max, and thank you, Kathleen, for joining us tonight, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to Grand Island, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Personnel non-instructional. If I can have a motion to approve non-instructional PNI 1 through PNI 3, please.
I'll motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. Now on to the finance section, 6-0. Glenn is, okay. Motion carried 6-0. And if we could, let's move on to finance with Dr. Harris.
Good evening. I am going to start with our presentation. That way we can get that underway and you can ask questions, and then I will go through the items. That's not me. I don't have dogs, even though I love them. But first, I would like to introduce Keith Sonder. He is with Nexus Renewables. I'm going to turn it over to him to introduce who he has with him and also to start his presentation. So Keith, you have the floor. Keith, are you able to?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks. I'm sorry, I was muted there. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be in front of all of you. I'm here with some of my colleagues, Jeremy McCool from Buffalo Solar, Ben Gustafson, and Dan Yanesh from Hunt Engineering. We're going to be introducing a solar project to the floor. If you don't mind, I'd just like to share my screen. I'm going to try my best to do that. I'm just going to open this up right now. Can you all see my screen right now?
We can. Thank you, Keith.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yes.
So yeah, a little background on we're presenting a solar project at 357 Bedell Road. It's a small solar development that we're looking at moving forward with. I'm going to provide you with a little bit of background on Nexus Renewables and just touch on really on the project that we're proposing and some of the benefits, not just for the school board, but also for the local community, and also in terms of any tax benefits for the county, the town as well. Background on us, we're a renewable developer. We're focused on solar and energy storage. We're currently active in New York, Ontario, and California. We focus on energy storage in Ontario and California, and in New York, we're predominantly installing a lot of solar projects. I'm going to go quickly through the overview of Nexus Renewables so that in the event that you have any questions in terms of the solar project, I'll be more than happy to address those, or our team will be more than happy to address them. In terms of the way we're set up, Nexus Renewables is not your typical developer. We are backed by an energy trading team. It's managed by Royal Bank of Canada's former head of commodities. Unlike most renewable developers, when they build projects and let them really wait on the wind for the wind to blow or the sun to shine, we actively manage our assets in order to make sure that they dispatch electricity when it matters most. We operate under a very de-risked platform. We partner with local EPC firms, so we're partnered with Hunt and Buffalo Solar for this project. And really, we also partner with a large EPC provider. In this case, it's Fluence. It's a Siemens company. And what they do is they really provide guarantees in terms of when we say we're going to deliver our project and when we commit to a certain budget that we're going to hit that target. The diagram on the bottom really just shows how we're set up to build our projects. The diagram on the right really just shows how the electricity system, it generates electricity. We export 100% of the electricity into National Grid. And just so that you are all aware, we don't receive funds from National Grid, we receive credits from National Grid. We thereby enlist community subscribers, and we assign those credits to the community, generally at a discount to par value, so that such that local community members can enjoy a savings on their electricity bill. Our team, as I mentioned, our team is comprised of ourselves, but under that it's we have Siemens Financial Services. They're our primary financial backer. Fluence is predominantly an energy storage company. They provide construction wrap around our projects, and we have Hunt and Buffalo Solar to which I'll let the folks from Hunt speak, just to introduce themselves.
Hi, this is Ben Gustafson. I'm a principal with Hunt Engineers Architects, and excited to be here talking about the project. We do a lot of work with school districts across upstate New York, so bring some of that knowledge to this team around this specific solar project itself.
Sure, and from Buffalo Solar, Jeremy.
Hi, I'm Jeremy McCool with Buffalo Solar. We are a local family-owned solar contractor out of Buffalo, New York, and we've completed 500 plus solar projects. Our commercial team has a cumulative of about 15 megawatts and 20 years of experience doing commercial solar across the country and in multiple states. And we're happy to be a part of this project and a part of the team.
Thanks, guys. So just a high-level overview on what the ask was. Grand Island Central School District owns a 54-acre parcel of land that really corners Bedell Road and the interstate. The parcel is generally unsuitable for commercial development, and the reason why it's unsuitable is it's largely occupied by wetlands. And in July of this year, the school district expressed interest in leasing this parcel of land for solar development. Some of the benefits through putting solar on a property such as this is that first and foremost, it with the solar, you can reduce your own own electricity costs. Separately, through taxes, it generates revenues for local taxing jurisdictions. This is the school board itself can realize value from that. Also Erie County and also the town of Grand Island can also benefit from that. Thirdly, which I touched on earlier, is that all the electricity that's produced from this project gets exported into the grid. From National Grid, Nexus Renewables receives credits. Those credits we then assign to local businesses, local town, or local residential households. Really, we assign them at, it's a 10% discount to par value, such that any resident who participates as a subscriber realizes a 10% discount on their electricity costs. Fourthly, the property is generally unproductive. It's a good use of the property itself. And then lastly, what it does is it, through having solar, you're really, the school board is or the school district is really, advancing environmental stewardship.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So you've described benefits to the school district and the public. Can you describe the benefits to those who are involved in the project, including you and the other groups that are involved in this project? What economic benefits do you guys see from, engaging in the project for 54 acres?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the benefits for us and also for the others that are involved is, from a job standpoint, it creates jobs, especially for there's local labor jobs involved in building the project. There's also recurring jobs that are created through servicing the solar panels. Our role and even our role is really, we're focused on generating electricity. Our mandate is to invest into power projects. Through federal level incentives, we're able to bring this project at a very low cost to Grand Island Central School District. But yeah, our mandate is really to put as much renewable energy as we can into the ground.
Okay, so I'm presuming you're a privately owned company that is designed to make money from whatever they do. Can you describe what economic benefits your company is getting from this?
Yeah, and no, that's also a very good question. So, from a financial standpoint, most of our benefits come in the form of it's actually, you can Google it. It's called an investment tax credit, and really what it is it's a tax credit that allows us, or it allows our investors to really just reduce the amount of federal level taxes that would otherwise be paid.
So your company will benefit how?
Pardon?
How will your company benefit from this?
So our company really, through our financial backers, whether in this case it's Siemens, generally, is generally able to realize those benefits. And again, yeah, we all operate for profit. We're not. It's generally the profit that we're looking is just commensurate of what you would otherwise realize in putting energy infrastructure projects into the ground.
That hasn't answered my question, but thank you anyway.
Okay.
I have a question. If you were to have this project and then decide that it was to cease, do you take care of removing all of the solar panels, and is there a specific time frame for that?
Yes. So we, as part of building our project, we work with a number of, actually a number of industrial development agencies. That's kind of our focus, our bread and butter. We are starting to work with school boards, our engineering and folks, and also with Buffalo Solar, they have a lot of experience working with school boards as well. But generally, when we work with government agencies, they all ask for really a decommissioning plan and a bond to be made available such that we honor that decommissioning plan. That's something that we're definitely comfortable with doing, and that's something that's part of our business model.
Thank you.
You mentioned you work with other school boards. Can you name some of those? And are they completed projects, or you're just in the beginning stages, such as this one?
Yeah, maybe I'll let Hunt address that. They're probably the best position to address that question. Ben?
Yeah, a couple of the districts we've completed solar projects for include Letchworth was probably our most recent. They did an array that was specifically just for the school itself, so it was a power purchase agreement. That was not a community solar project. Also, Camden Central School District, we did an array for. We've done a couple roof-mounted arrays that are smaller in size. Our first large ground-mounted array was for Avon Central School District.
Those are completed projects?
Those are all completed projects, yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. I'll move on to the next slide. What we're proposing is a 3 megawatt installation on the 54 acre parcel. The 3 megawatts will occupy roughly 12 of the 54 acres. But right in the middle of the slide is really a breakdown of the financial benefits, both to Grand Island Central School District, and then separately the financial benefits to the town of Grand Island and also Erie County. Grand Island Central School District stands to benefit from roughly $137,000 in annual benefits in the form of cost savings. And these are largely through either a lease and or an allocation of those credits that I had mentioned earlier. Towards the town and the county, generally they can participate through, and this is local businesses, the county themselves, or even the town through publicly owned infrastructure or buildings, can subscribe to the program and really take on credits at a 10% discount to what their current electricity rates are.
And I think the final piece to that puzzle would be, what's the economic benefit for the project as a whole that goes to everybody who's involved, including the sponsors?
So the total economic benefit you're saying if you were to add it up, so it's $137,000 to Grand Island Central School District. You add in $27,000 to either the town or the county. In addition to that, there's also there are also property taxes that we would be subject to. The property taxes that I could tell you the prevailing rate in New York State is roughly around $5,000 per megawatt. So this would imply an additional $15,000. So when you add all three of those up, that's really the financial benefits, and that's on an annual basis. So that's over.
But I presume that the sponsors, those who are involved, including you, and the other companies that are involved, are getting some benefit from this. Can you explain what that benefit might be?
Yeah. So I mean the benefit I could tell you is what our company, what Nexus Renewables is getting is these credits that you're seeing right here. So we're covering the cost of installing the project. And in return for that, we effectively get the $170,000 worth of credits. You can see that are actually applied towards to Grand Island Central School District. Plus, we also get an extra $270,000 worth of credits, and that's it. That's all we get.
We're probably not going to make a decision on this tonight. I would like to see a thorough description of the economic benefits to all parties were, in my opinion, the school board votes on this tonight.
For sure.
Okay, thank you.
I think ultimately what would be helpful is, we're looking at our dollar benefits, right? And to look at it as an individual number is quite a bit of money, but what piece of the pie is that? And is it truly the benefit that our school districts, county, and residents should be receiving for the use of for our land? So I guess, what is the percentage of 137,000 in the total benefit that all parties are going to receive?
Correct, and just to make sure we get our fair share. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I totally acknowledge that, and I think in order to make sure, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the the school district, but this is part of an RFP, and this is our submission as part of that RFP. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, it is a competitive process, and this is what we came out with. So just to address the, again, one of the other value propositions is we are using local businesses as best possible in order to move forward with the installation. Moving on to the next slide, I'm going to let Hunt go through some of the environmental review and some of the site design.
Yeah, so one of the key items is the presence of wetlands on the site. Most people have seen something that's similar to what's on the left that shows from the National Wetlands Inventory, this area orange where most of the site appears to be occupied by wetlands as identified by the Army Corps' sort of overview generalized wetlands mapping. In order to see if the site was feasible in preparing a response to the RFP, Deluxe is an environmental firm. They did a on-site assessment to determine, in their opinion, where they believe the wetlands are. And in that process, identified an area that has the potential for development. This is a preliminary assessment. In the course of the project, there would be a detailed report prepared with flaggings and surveys in order to verify that assessment. That would be submitted to the Army Corps for their approval and review. But based on the information we have today, we believe that the area predominantly that appears to have been farmed is currently not active as a wetland. And so that would be the area for primarily focused for development. Our access road and the interconnection would likely need to go through part of the wetlands on the north side, and our intention would be to limit any of that disturbance as much as possible to the extent that we can occupy or operate within a nationwide general permit, it's called, so less than 1/2 acres of disturbance. So really we'd be looking to utilize the property to its sort of highest value while protecting and limiting the impact to the wetlands in this area. There'd be an access road as shown in the plan here to the north off of Bedell Road, and then 4 different arrays. In order to maximize the benefit of the incentives, we'd likely look to either subdivide or provide different tax parcel numbers in this property based on some of the ways those credits are applied, and this sort of passes on more benefits to the project as a whole, including the school district.
Thanks, Ben. The next slide after the site layout is interconnection. Jeremy, did you want to touch on that?
Yeah, sure. Hi. So for the interconnection on this project, we have identified that there is a very good three-phase line right across the 190 from the project, but not on the project side of the 190. And so for this project, we will have to bring three-phase power across the 190 and to the project site through the right-of-way that Ben just touched on through the north side. And we believe that interconnection cost, including some other upgrades that would need to be done to the substation to enable this and other local projects that are going on nearby on Grand Island, to total about $800,000. So that'll include some feeder upgrades, bringing the feeder up to the par that can handle the load from the project, or the generation from the project, should I say, and then also some upgrades to the substation itself, which will bring better power quality and more capacity to Grand Island and allow for more houses, more development. And it's pretty nice when the utility can get, developers such as Nexus and others to actually pay for those upgrades and improve the local infrastructure. And then, any questions on that?
No, can you provide and forgive me if I'm not in tune with the details, you guys are, can you provide the total economic benefit to the school district over a period of time, and what period of time that might be?
Yeah, I can address that. So to the school district, the value, and I'm just going back, is $137,000 per year. We would be entering into an agreement where we would effectively cover that for 25 years at a minimum. And in addition to that, there would be we call it a pilot agreement, but really what that does is it's allocates a certain portion of taxes to the school district through that agreement. This is in addition to the $137,000 per year.
Is there any thought on your part that you would want to front that up front, so that we wouldn't have to wait 25 years to get those dollars?
Yeah. So in generally, we've structured that on the tax side of things. We have not historically structured it on the I'll call it quote unquote the lease side of things. It is something that we would be open to, but it's just that it's not in the norm, I guess you could say.
So the numbers that Keith just mentioned, when I add them up, I come up with $3.8 million over 25 years.
Okay, what's the time value of money put in, right? So, the 137 times 25, so. Correct.
Right. I added in $5,000 per megawatt for the 3 megawatts for a pilot agreement as well. When you add all that up, you get 3.8 million for 25 years.
Okay.
Some of that pilot will go to the school district as well, as a just in lieu of paying the school taxes on the parcel. And I believe that Grand Island is currently exempt for the first 15 years from those taxes anyway. And so a pilot will allow you to recoup some value out of the solar using that space aside from the lease, with that solar tax exemption, where the property would not otherwise be allowed to charge taxes, but with a pilot agreement, you still get that revenue coming in regardless. Does that make sense? Okay. Moving on to the
wait, I would like to just ask a quick question. I apologize. When you were talking about subdividing the land, and maybe I didn't catch it, what is the need to subdivide? Because if you're only using a certain section of it, why would you need to parcel it out?
That's a great question. So our and maybe I'll take a step back before answering that. You know, when we initially proposed this, we recognized this as a competitive procurement, and under the competitive procurement, you know, we were against other developers, and you know, our understanding was that Grand Island Central School District is going to be picking, you know, pretty much the most economic solution for Grand Island. As such, in order for us to provide that most economic solution, you know, we crafted a way in order where we can maximize the state level subsidies. So this is where, you know, it's that last bullet point on this slide. Through subdividing and really just creating separate tax parcels on the land, we're able to maximize those state level incentives, and we pass through that value to Grand Island Central School District.
Are you going to be using all 4 of those parcels that you subdivide out, or portions of all 4 of those parcels?
Yeah, it's really it's going to remain 12 acres that we're utilizing. We're just subdividing that 12 acres into smaller parcels.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If I may speak real quickly to the execution plan, we are kind of in the negotiation and award section of the RFP right now, and we're looking to start the seeker review very shortly after the award, I guess, becomes a little more solid. We've already done some preliminary design for the project, and Hunt could probably speak to that. As things go along, we'll conduct a site plan review with the town of Grand Island and with the school district and with the IDA and all of the other parties involved. The Caesar review as well. So Caesar is the interconnection studies that the state requires the utilities to go through in order to ensure that a solar project is safely connected to the utility grid. Since these solar projects will be providing power directly into the grid, they need to do a bunch of studies on their infrastructure to make sure it can handle it, make sure that the way we've planned it is safe and to code, the strictest NEC codes. And that process will take a little while, and then we'll be looking to get a building permit, do a detailed IFC design, and there will be some utility interconnection upgrades that will take some time. So you can see on the schedule, the utility interconnection upgrades running between January and June, and that would be the time we expect for, you know, to be able to pull the lines across the 190, possibly some of the substation upgrades. Some of them may be done after the project as well. And then the procurement process, procuring the transformers, the solar panels, the racking, and the inverters. There will be just a tad bit of tree clearing, as Keith mentioned, and it's really just to make a road pathway through that northern end so that we can connect to the existing driveway off of Bedell Road. And we just want to make sure that we are minimizing any trees we need to clear. We're certainly conscious that there could be some threatened species in the area. There are in many places in Western New York, especially the northern long-eared bat. And so we're going to be very careful to ensure that we're not disturbing any such species. There are certain times that they roost in trees that may need to be knocked down, and other times of the year that they do not. So we'll be very careful about that as well. The trenching, the foundations of the solar array will be pile driven, which means we're just ramming steel I-beams into the ground. So we're not putting cement in the ground. We're not putting infrastructure into the ground that will stay there forever. The I-beams are extremely easy to pull back out with a crane once the project has expired its lifespan after 25 years or a subsequent run if there's another interconnection agreement later. And then everything else will be built, you know, to all of the standard NEC codes and bringing the project to completion somewhere around September of next year is what we project. And then there will be about an 8-week commissioning period to dress everything up with the utility, with National Grid, and make sure that everything's connected, all the paperwork's in order, so that the system can be turned on and start saving the residents of Grand Island money on their electric bills. And that's the goal of all of this, beyond the financial benefits to the school district itself, is certainly saving local community members money on their electric bills.
So I have two questions. One goes back to those 4 individual parcels you're making out of the 12 acres. At the end of the agreement, what happens to those 4 parcels? Does it become one 53-acre plot of land, or will those 4 parcels that have been delineated stay separate?
So,
Keith, would you like me to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll address first, Jeremy. Feel free to jump in afterwards. But we are not actually physically creating separate subdivisions from a planning perspective. We're creating separate tax parcels. There's a tax parcel identifier for this lot. So those tax parcels will remain there, and even after we decommission at the end of the term, you know, we're committing to decommissioning the land, we're restoring it back to its original state. But in terms of you know, we're not actually physically subdividing the land. And Jeremy, is there anything else? Is that 100% correct there?
Yeah. So the tax IDs are literally a piece of paper. If you're familiar with the way an SBL looks, you'll have like 137.10-22-3. That will remain the parcel number. We're keeping it all one parcel. We're not carving it up as far as the zoning map is concerned. There will be no formal sub-parcel process that we go through. It's strictly with the assessor. We're just going to be providing a survey that shows the boundaries of the 4 different arrays with the assessor, and the assessor will supply what's called a tax ID to each of those 4 arrays, which will just take that SBL, that parcel number, and put a dot, say SP1 for solar project 1 and SP2 and SP3 at the end. And then at the end of the 25-year term, the assessor can simply drop those taxable parcels off. They're really only there to separate the solar projects from the rest of the property as far as taxing is concerned, so that the school district does not get hit with any additional taxes for the property because of the solar projects. That puts all of the tax basis for the solar projects onto Nexus, onto the developer, and keeps it off of the rest of the property. But it's only there for that purpose. Otherwise, it is not an official subdivision. Does that make sense?
Yes. Can you describe how we can guarantee that at the end of the 25-year term, that the company that is the developer will ensure that it gets put back to its original form? Is there going to be a bond?
Yeah.
Or other guarantees, so that if some financial hit happens to the developer, that we still get some assurance that it's returned to its original state?
So that's embedded within the lease agreement. The lease agreement will have a really detailed, laid out decommissioning plan, and then in addition to that, it'll have provisions for, you know, the developer, which is us, to post a bond or a surety to make sure that that decommissioning plan is followed through.
And then I have just one other question. And I don't know who this question is directed towards, but where we're actually putting up the panels, can somebody speak to the type of land that they're there now? Are there trees? Are there vegetation? So what we're looking at, what we're looking to cover with the panels. I know you talked about the 0.5 acres of trees. But what other disturbances to the land will take place to put up, the panels? I mean, is it cleared, is it brush, is it, I don't know who the question is directed to, and
Can I answer that, Keith?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so the current state of the land is the area that we're looking at. You can kind of see on the screen if you're able to see it. The area that we are working with is completely cleared right now. It may need to be bush hogged or something with some weeds growing up there, but this land has previously been used for farming. There are no trees on this area at all. The only area we're doing any tree clearing you can see up in this northern crosshatched area, there's a little access road running through that treed section, and that's really the only place we should need to do any tree clearing at all. The rest of the parcel is already completely cleared, and we designed the project this way on purpose. We decided not to use more of the land, even though there's obviously a lot more available, because we wanted to leave those trees intact and make sure we were not disturbing any wetlands and any potentially natural resources from Grand Island.
thank you.
Regarding the construction process itself, we'll be driving vehicles over that land, but it'll only be the area where the road will be built, and then beyond that, it's all cleared land already, so tire tracks, which we'll fill in, and then reseed to bring it back to its natural after the project is completed.
Any other questions? I do know that it was mentioned that we would like to see the benefit or financial gain for all parties. So we will definitely, I wrote that down. I will work with Nexus Renewables to be able to get that put together and provide to the Board of Education. I'm not sure if there's anything additional that you would like to see from any of the people on here. I just want to make sure I'm getting everything.
I'll just, if I can summarize my thoughts, I think that, as a district, when we own land, we want to ensure that the ultimate, best benefit to the town taxpayers is gained through any use of that land. We're not going to use it for school district purposes. So I would like to see as much information that is possible to ensure that we are giving that to the district and to the taxpayers. And if we have that, then I am confident that, at least myself, I will support it. And I'm guessing that others will be in that same vein, but I want to see all the information that supports that.
Yeah, and it's sorry, it's Keith here. Yeah, this is normal for and for us to be transparent with what our cost is, what the revenues are and so forth. Given that we do work with other government agencies, all of our, for the other projects, it is public disclosure in terms of what the cost is and even what the revenues are. So, we'd be more than happy to share what the benefit costs are, for Grand Island as well.
Okay, we'll work on that, Keith,
Yeah.
to be able to supply back to the board so they can review it.
Of course.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. I'm going to assume that it's okay to go through, and then if you guys are going to make any adjustments to approval, you'll tell me. So the items I have on the agenda tonight, item A is the award of obsolete trucks. I did want to reference that I think it was about $54,000 from the vehicles that we put on auction international. Our Jim Rosler, our director of buildings and grounds, does a superb job each year in reference to maximizing the amount of money we can bring in from the vehicles that we are getting rid of. I know that it comes up each time we budget about the purchase of new vehicles, but this is showing that at least 70% of our cost for a new vehicle is being covered based on the revenue side. So that is on the agenda. We also have the donation of books from Zucker Press. This is, I think, the second year this has happened. Last year, I think you received this information under curriculum, but I just bundled it together. Item C is the solar presentation and approval. So you already saw the presentation. The approval item here is just taking the next steps of who we are able to speak with to get this moving. I do know that Glenn had mentioned possibly tabling it, but it is here. And then item D is budget transfers over 15,000. The biggest one was the encumbrance of payroll. I always like to explain budget transfers a little bit. All of the transfers that are happening are within salary codes. So it's from one salary code to another. The biggest thing that makes us have to do these movements is because of ESSA. ESSA requires that you report your expenses by building. So if a teacher was originally budgeted in Huth and that teacher moved to Kegabyne, I do those fund movements once I know. Sometimes that information is not known during budget season because movements haven't taken place, leaves have not been approved. So as they move, I move the money into the appropriate building so our state and federal reports are done correctly. There is also the request for a transfer for middle school equipment in the capital project area. I would like to report that Mr. Fitzpatrick does a superb job of not spending all of the capital project money. So I feel very good about what is happening in reference to the capital project and the furniture expense. So that is on there as well. So these are A through D are action items. So if I could get action on them.
All right, if I could have a motion to approve A, B, and D in table C or discussion from the board?
C is the capital project or the.
And C is the solar project.
And I will make a motion to do exactly as you asked.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any objection? Any abstention? Motion carried 7-0.
Okay. Item E is the check warrants for September. Item F is a budget timeline. At least since I've been at Grand Island, this is the first time I've done something like this. I thought, I think it's nice to have a full calendar out with everyone being on the same page of how the budget development process goes. I thought it was even more important this year, given COVID and a lot of the conversations that are going to be taking place, whether that is in person or virtual, we shall see, but the calendar helps even more for those such things. So this just gives a little bit of detail of what happens on the administrative side with different departments and administrators, as well as what the state timeline is right now, which we know that last year that did shift. So if anything changes pertaining to that, we would definitely update this timeline, but this is where it's at right now based on their schedule. And then G is budget transfers under 15,000. One was in reference to a benefit for having really good attendance or perfect attendance per SRPs. That is something new for this current year. It shifted slightly in their contract when the last negotiations took place for them. And the other item was a COVID expense line for gloves. And I feel like, the business office and HR office will be doing a virtual professional development. Usually we do this in person each year, but it's going to be virtual. So we move money in that line because we had cleared out the conference and travel lines when we started the year. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We are going to move ahead to the Board of Education report and circle back to special education and the superintendent's report after we have our presentations on the hybrid models from the high school teachers.
Thank you, Ashley. I'd like to introduce Mr. Loria. Mr. Loria, I believe you have some teachers ready to present to the Board of Education tonight, demonstrating some hybrid virtual or 100% virtual teaching and learning experiences that are occurring at our high school level. So Mr. Loria, if you could just introduce some of our teachers, that would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Graham. As many of you know, our strategic plan has led to us engaging in a very intensive goal-setting process of quantitative information over the years. This year, we kind of had to readjust a little bit and start to focus our goal on engaging students. As many of you know, it's been a very challenging year to get students engaged using some of the remote and hybrid tools that we have, and we've just actually, Hillary Kretz-Harvey and I facilitated a staff development session in the last week in terms of what's working in virtual instruction and what's not working. And many of our teachers gathered together and shared some of the things that are working in their classrooms to engage students. And so tonight, we have three teachers, one co-teaching team that's going to start off with sharing with you what's been working in their algebra classroom, and that's Mrs. Gallagher and Mr. Gotti. We also have Mr. Neely, who is going to be presenting on what's working in his classroom, and we have Mrs. Carrie Ernst, who's also going to present a little bit on what's going in her classroom. So Mrs. Gallagher and Mrs. Gotti are going to present first.
Hi, I'm Natalie Gallagher. Hopefully you can see me. I teach at the high school. Right now I'm teaching Algebra 1 and AP Statistics. I am logged in twice here today to kind of simulate how my algebra class is working. I co-teach with Christina DeGatti, who's on here.
Hi, I'm Christina DeGatti.
And I'm just going to kind of go through some of the examples that specifically our algebra course we use for instruction. I just want you to see some of the strategies we have implemented since we've discovered what has worked and how we can improve. So some of the great things that are happening right now, what I have on the screen is a typical view of what a student would see when they open their classes. Being that I teach algebra and AP statistics, these are in mine. I'm going to toggle back and forth from my view to what the students will see. But first thing I want to just share with you is when you open a Google Classroom, and pardon me if any of this is redundant, but I just want to make sure to go through some of the key features that we have that really are working for us. So the first thing is in the Google Classroom, you can see that there are a stream and a classwork. And for our stream for algebra, and this is also how most of the math classes are working as well at the high school level, we'll post our schedule for the week. And we'll post our expectations for the week as well. So for instance, this week, we will be teaching, or we taught today, part of our unit. Tomorrow there's a quiz. Wednesday is Veterans Day. Then we have a couple more days of notes. These also go through what times we expect actually our students to join us. If they are virtually at home that day, if as a hybrid student, obviously they're in our class present at those times as well. In addition to that, each post, we also have our virtual math help. This works for everybody in the high school. So all math teachers have given this information to all the high school math students. And each day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, either myself, Mrs. DeGatti, or Mr. Sweeney are available for those times for any virtual math help. So how that works is they join that second classroom. And that second classroom is, again, listing all the times. And we've kind of listed our areas of expertise, but honestly, we're pretty confident in all the levels of the math. So at the top of each class, there is a Google Meet link. So for instance, if students want virtual math help, once a teacher, myself, Mrs. DeGatti, or Mr. Sweeney, open the meet, that any student at the high school that has this link can join on our Meet and ask the questions from home. For our algebra class, it works the same way. It's a different link because it's a different class. So that's always at the top of whatever class, and you can join in there. In addition to that, I kind of want to touch on in our classwork, we have and again, this is how most of the math classes are working. Each unit is posted, and I'll just give you an example of today's work that we did. So a typical day might include going over homework, and students have access to this afterwards and at any time throughout the year. It never goes away. So they can see the answers from the previous night's homework. Then for today's notes, what we have posted in here are a blank copy of notes, and I'll show you that in a second. The answers to the notes, a Desmos activity, which I'll also touch base on very quickly, and a video recording of the lesson that happened today. And another typical thing that happens is a homework assignment that's posted. So touching quick note on this is if I open a homework assignment, each student will view this while opening with Kami. So students for the math department have the option to use their Chromebooks and a stylus or their finger to do the work right on Kami and right on their touchscreen. Or we also offer that they can write it on the notebook that we provided to them, or on blank sheet of paper, and just take a picture with it on their Chromebook and upload it that way for their daily homework.
What's really nice about the students doing their homework in Kami this year and doing it virtually versus just doing it on paper and us walking around the room is it's giving us a chance to really see a deeper understanding of what they're understanding. In the past, we just quickly walked around the room really fast just to check to see if kids did their homework, so we weren't really able to see how much they were understanding. We're able to comment individually, privately to each kid. We can see if they're struggling. I make suggestions to them to log into virtual math help with us. I tell them what numbers to check. Obviously, if I tell kids to see me and they don't see me, we can seek them out on our own. So it's really nice having them present or do their homework virtually, because we can actually see what they're understanding versus just quickly walking around the room. It's so much nicer.
So what I just opened up, the same way students would open up their homework to write on their Chromebook with their homework answers, they can also take notes. So whether the students are at home and see what you see right now, this is an example of today's notes that I worked through, and they saw me presenting them live. They can see me using the calculator. They can also see all of my work live again, and they can copy notes down on their own notes of Kami. And again, whenever we're going through a lot of the calculator keys, it's very important for them to see them at the same time. Each student has a calculator app that's downloaded this year. It's the best year ever for calculator support because they all have a color version of the TI-84 right on their Chromebook. So we have been able to really dive deep into using the calculator for explorations because everyone has one. So that's been phenomenal. But that's a typical way we use notes. There's one more awesome thing that we have been really loving. And today, for instance, there's we use Desmos. And today, this is what a student would see. So I clicked on the link that's in Google Classroom for today's notes. And I obviously started this to continue, but they would sign in with their name. Everything's just one click away because it's all through the Google Classroom and their name is already linked. And they'll go through here and submit whatever they find. Let's see if I can answer this correctly. And they will submit their response and they'll toggle through the slides at their own pace, depending on what we've created. So this one was particularly just to find out where the lines cross and intersect each other. So what's awesome, this is what a student sees on their end. On our end, this is an example of what we would see. So on my desktop, I would have this open, and on the left-hand side, I just anonymized everybody, so you didn't have the student names, but this was something we did earlier last week, and the students would work through all of these slides at their own pace, and we can see that if they have a check mark, they got that slide correct, and they were successful, and X means they were not. So for instance, I can click on a slide and see what they did. Actually, this was more of an exploration slide, and I got to see that they were successful. They were trying to get all the stars by creating equations of line. And what's awesome is that I can submit feedback around the on the right-hand side. I just click on, it's like a chat, and it'll pop up on their screen and say, go back to slide 17 and check on the slope. And I can toggle back and forth to see what their next slide is, and I can continue to look at just some of the ways students are thinking. And some of them have really amazed us of how they are having different success with just creating lines. So this was, again, an exploration one. Actually, this one was our favorite because we didn't realize that they toggled it so they could fall through. That was a really awesome one. In addition to that, back to, let's see, notes, student view. What else do I want to say? One other thing that we do use is in our resources, we also have an exit ticket that we use regularly. So we can get their opinion of how they are doing, and they can also quickly communicate with us where they're struggling, things that they might need to work on, what's one thing from today's lesson that you are doing well with, and so on. So we've been really, really, really happy with the participation from our algebra classes. We are hoping, and we've been trying from day one to have them log in if they are virtual, 100% virtual, or virtually that day at home through the hybrid model. But most students have really been logging in. It's obviously not the expectation of a parent to be teaching them algebra by any means. So with their support, we've been able to communicate with them. If a student is not logging in, we send them a note, say, just so you know, they could be taking advantage of this. If they can't log in at a specific time for class, we welcome them to come in the other class time because we teach 2 sections. Or we also, as I showed you before, that there's actually a link to the actual Google Meet. We record it every day. So if for some reason they can't log in at 9:28, they can watch it later in the day.
Something that's worked really well for us in our class this year is we've had tons of communication with our parents from day one when we noticed, since we offer the live lessons, kids that weren't constantly getting on for the live lesson. We just reached out to the parents to let them know that what was available to their student or their child, and the parents most times didn't know, and we're thrilled that we were letting them know. In most cases, the child regularly got on after that. Another thing we've done is whenever we've had assessments, if the kids have been at school or at home, we make the kids log into Google Meet to take the assessment so we know that they're on. And then if the kids weren't logged in within the first 5 minutes of class, we would just call home real quickly, let the parents know they're supposed to be taking an assessment. And every time they've got on, we've had honestly 0 issues with kids missing assessments from not being in school, whether they're virtual or at home or with us. And the key has really just been communication with the parents, and we've had really good feedback from constantly letting the parents know what's going on.
Yes, that's it.
So I want to thank both of you for presenting tonight. Do we have any questions from the board for our 2 teachers?
I have a couple questions. One is, two questions. One is have you found that your experience and what you've been doing with students is similar to what other teachers have been doing in the high school? And 2, this is a very open-ended question, and is it your thought that 2 days of school being there is as good as 5 days of school being there?
So to answer the first question, we were spending many hours over the summer trying to figure out what would work. Christina and I went back and forth of options, and we ended up figuring out what would be the best way to present, make sure that students were included as often as possible, knowing that when they are at home on their virtual lessons, it's very difficult to just work through the math or read the instructions. We need them participating with us. So we felt it was best for our class specifically to run a live session. All of the other math teachers piggybacked on our thoughts as well, and kind of we all took the same similar direction of presenting live lessons. So they really are getting 4 full days of instruction live with 38 minutes. The 5th day we've been using as reinforcement of what we are teaching the other 4 days. Sometimes we've taught new topics on those virtual Wednesdays as well. Or we've done Desmos activities on those days as well, so we can give them feedback, or we've even offered just help time. In addition to that, the algebra classes have extension time, so they have the opportunity when they are physically present in school to get that extra help. And now I'm forgetting your second question.
The second question was, and a very open-ended question. I think that it's different in each grade level. In my mind, it's more difficult to give virtual instruction in the elementary school levels. I'm more confident that that can happen in the high school level. But bottom line is, and this is to the parents and as a board member, do you think, open-ended question, nobody's gonna hold you to this, but do you think that the kids are getting comparable instruction with what's going on now, as opposed to being in school 5 days a week?
I really do. I'm really, really proud of the math department with how we've been able to still communicate with the kids, still make the presenting and trying to our hardest to get them involved with the note taking, with the problem solving. I am very confident I can speak to my algebra classes and AP statistics that we are working hard, and the kids are working hard too. So I think it's very, very comparable. I think that if and when we do take the virtual approach, as what's coming down maybe, I think that we'll be able to continue with what we're doing and we won't skip a beat.
I appreciate your candor.
Natalie, can I just ask you a question? Now, do you work with also the 8th grade math teachers who are teaching the 9th grade math? Are they kind of teaching it the same way you guys are?
I do not work with them. So it's just, I've been working with all the high school math teachers, but I have not communicated with the 8th grade math teacher.
Okay, and you do all of your math classes are live stream for the students if they want them?
Yes.
And then all the cool math teachers are teaching it right now?
Yes, I co-teach geometry and algebra 2, also the other 2 Regents math classes, and we are also live streaming in there also.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. Do you see a difference in between the progress of your fully remote students and the students that you have for hybrid? And if so, what differentiation tactics are you using for that?
So because of the method we've set up, they're pretty much, I really don't see a difference. When the students are physically present in the room, they're still working on their Chromebook and getting the same view. I mean, they see physically me at the board instead of the presentation through the Google Meet, but they are still submitting the same work that the kids virtually are. So I don't see any difference there, whether you're a hybrid student or a virtual student. The 100% virtual students, as Mrs. Degatti mentioned, if they're not participating in something, we've reached out just like we have the hybrid. So really, we've taken the approach that we're trying to do the same thing for all 3 groups, if you will, the ones that are in class, the ones that are hybrid at home, and the 100% virtual. And it's been streamlined best that way because we've been doing the same thing for all 3 groups, basically.
And honestly, some of our virtual students are turning in some of the best work. The kids that are really putting in the effort at home are really turning in phenomenal work.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good, thank you, Christina and Natalie. Mr. Lurie, can you introduce the next teacher?
Yeah, this time, one of the themes that we tried to touch on is some of the different technology, as Mrs. Gallagher and Mrs. Degatti talked about Desmos. I'm going to introduce Mr. Neely next. He's going to talk a little bit about how he uses Quizlet effectively in his Spanish classroom. So for those of you who don't know, Mr. Neely is new to us, just to remind you, this school year. And one of the things we were most impressed with was his demonstration lesson in which he was able to engage students using technology very effectively. And now some of our other, some of his other colleagues are benefiting from that. So Mr. Neely, go ahead.
Hello, hope you can hear me. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you for some time this evening. I'm going to go ahead and share a Google Slides presentation that I have that's very brief. And just with some more information about Quizlet. So I have had the opportunity to use Quizlet over the last 6 years. At the school that I was previously at, I was able to use Quizlet as well with my students. So the way that I use it is both as an instructional tool, but also as a way to allow students to engage in independent practice at home or even in class sometimes. And Quizlet is a tool I use primarily for vocabulary, but I have used it to reinforce other concepts, grammatical concepts and otherwise. And I'm even able to use Quizlet as a way to do classroom games as review. So the reason why I like Quizlet so much is because it's a very easy website to navigate. There are a lot of great features in the free version. And the way Quizlet works is that there are study sets, almost like sets of flashcards that are all digital. And with those study sets, you can create them on your own to really tailor to whatever the instruction is, or you can find study sets that are made by other teachers and use those, edit them, even to make those adjustments. There have been times where I have needed to maybe get some ideas of what a study set could look like, or maybe even provide students with an immediate kind of review. Say we're going over numbers. Numbers are typically a concept that's hard for students to remember, even though we use numbers every single year of Spanish. Numbers can be difficult, so it's easy for me to just type in numbers in the search bar and find a study set and push that out to students. And there are more features that are available in the premium versions, but as I said, the free version has a lot of really great features that I think are very useful both for teachers and students. So one of the things I mentioned were the study sets are sort of like flashcards. And one of the things that I like to do, I use these flashcards to practice the vocabulary or the concepts. So maybe putting the word up in Spanish and the students produce that in English, vice versa. Or one of the things that I like to build with my students is I describe it as a triangle where students are able to when they hear a word in English, they're able to picture something or maybe imagine the thing. And if you have a vocab list or vocab notes, you can make that connection between the word in English and the word in Spanish. But I like for my students to be able to make the connection between the word in Spanish and an image. One of my high school Spanish teachers was very big on that. You know, when you hear the word gato, don't think of cat, think of an actual image of a cat. So that's something that I like to use the flashcards for. And I also use it for pronunciation lessons as well, or just to review little things along the way. Quizlet Live is the game that I was referring to, and it's interactive. It's done all through the students' personal devices. So I've done it with iPads. I've seen it done with phones. Chromebooks also are great for this. And it's a game that students can engage with either in groups or teams or individually. So with the restrictions of COVID, it's nice to have the option of doing this Quizlet Live game, but everyone's sort of doing it individually. And in classes that are very small, students can work in teams, but they're also able to socially distance while doing so and still work together. So it's nice to have a little bit of that, some semblance of what the language classroom usually looks like, which is lots of group work and collaboration and communication in that way. But the individualized practice is the thing I think I really like about Quizlet, where in a student's Quizlet account, they can join the teacher's class or access the study set on their own. And there are different games or different ways of reviewing the material in that study set. So the picture that I have here is just of a spelling thing where the student hears the vocabulary word in Spanish and they type it out. And they also are provided with the English and a picture if the site set has pictures. But there are some other ways that students can individually engage with the study sets. In the upper left-hand corner, there is a learn game where sort of it's like a multiple choice. They can, it's like a quiz, but not. There is in the lower left-hand corner, there's just a writing sort of thing, almost like what a student might do on a traditional vocabulary quiz. And then on the right-hand side are two of the more fun games. A lot of students enjoy the matching game that's in the lower right-hand corner. And the thing is always trying to get the fastest time. And in the upper right-hand corner is a gravity game where it's like typing, but it's just presented in a different way. So ultimately, all these features, plus a couple others that that are available to students, allow students to have differentiated ways of engaging with the material, and they can choose what works for them. So Quizlet, like I said, is a resource I've used for years now, and it's one that I've started using this year as well. And the students, I think, have responded well to it, and I will continue to use it as we keep moving forward with our vocabulary and with our grammatical concepts.
Mr. Neely, thank you very much. Are there any questions for James? All right, thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Laurie, I think we have one more teacher.
I do. And before I introduce Mrs. Ernst, I just want to say that, you know, I was in her classroom observing this past week. I've been in many classrooms this year. And one of the things I do want to shout out to all teachers is just how much I appreciate how hard they're all working this year, because I do know that I've heard this common theme time and time again. It is like your first year teaching all over again. Everything is new. Everything is different. Many of our teachers started off going in a direction they didn't like and had to put the brakes on and pause and reflect and learn from each other what was working so that they could readjust. And we're still seeing that today. So I think you're only going to see that as the year goes on, more and more amazing things coming from our teachers, and such a quick learning curve for all, that I'm just really proud of all they've done. And I know how hard they are working day in and day out to make this as engaging as possible for students in Grand Island. So Mrs. Ernst is going to talk about her experiences using Nearpod. And I was really lucky to get to see it the other day in her US history class. And I want her to share how she's been using it effectively this year.
Okay, hi, I am Carrie Ernst. I teach AP US History and Foundations of Knowledge and then America's Wars in the spring. And when we came in, I'm going to kind of share my presentation with you. So hold on a second. And basically, when I started this year, I noticed there was a big difference. The students were not participating as much. I think the masks plus the plastic barriers plus, you know, the distance, it's just made them quieter. They're much quieter this year. So I was looking for something to help increase this interaction. And I came across Nearpod through some colleagues that were talking about using it. And I started using it, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing with it. And I kind of want to show you a little bit about how this works. Nearpod is an add-on for Google Slides or PowerPoint. It works for various presentation slides. So it's actually just taking your presentations and kind of building in interaction with it. So what it does is it allows for that interaction in live lessons. So as the ones I present in the classroom, but also I can do this through Google Meets if we're doing it on a Wednesday and we're working on something, or it can be a self-paced lesson for somebody who is learning virtually if they're not tied in with what the class is doing. And like Quizlet, we were talking about, it has a free and a paid version, but the free version has so much stuff that I haven't even touched on everything with it yet. How it works, it basically, you start out with your slideshow and then you save it up to their website, and then it generates a code. And you can share that code with the students through Google Classroom. You can give them a link, or you can just give them, I usually in class, in the face-to-face classroom, I give them the code, they know what to do, they go right in and they log in and they get right into the Google session. When they do that, their Chromebook becomes like the screen in the front of the room. So they're seeing what's on the screen in the front of the room right on their Chromebook, and I control it in the classroom. And if they were in a Google Meet, I could control it as well. So they would be seeing what I want them to see, and I kind of can move it forward and back. If in a remote session, if it's a virtual student who's not doing it at the same time as me, they can control it. They can move it forward. There's like little arrows that they can do it at their own pace. So there's a couple of ways you can present this with the kids. One of the neat things I like about this is, again, it has a report feature at the end. And you can see this is one of mine on the Electoral College that I did, and you can see all my students listed here. The little kind of thing that looks sort of like home plate, that's the self-paced students. So those were students that did this on their own pacing, and I can click on that and I get the reports. And the right-hand corner here shows kind of one report that I've done. I blocked out the student names, but under there I would have their names. I could see their responses to the right of that, and I can see, did everybody answer? And it says right here, one didn't answer. That happened to be me because I was logged in too, so all the other students did actually answer. But you can see there's like 3 different activities that they did during this lesson, and I can get feedback on every one. I can see exactly what they wrote during the classroom, and I see that in real time with them, but then I also have a report of it later. So it really saves everything for me. And it does all kinds of activities. There are polls, quizzes, virtual field trips, videos, and I wanted to kind of show you a few of these in a little bit more detail so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. One of the things I like using a lot is a poll or a question. So this is a nice way to kind of start off the lesson, maybe kind of engage them in something they might already know. It can be something that's just, you know, something to get them excited about what we're talking about, but you give them a few answers, they can click on it. I can, at the end, bring up a graphic of it. They can see that graphic. They can see how everybody voted. They don't see the people's names, but they can see the percentages. So you can kind of get a little bit of feedback. You can work one. This could be an exit ticket as well. So there's a lot of ways you can use it. You can also set this up like a quiz. So it could be actually asking them questions, and you know, you could be testing them as you go along. I wanted to point out in the little box that I've got here where it says wait. If you're a self-paced student and you're working through this on your own, if you try to go past this without doing it, it stops them. It says, wait, there's a question. There's something here. You got to interact with it. And it stops them from just going on to the next slide. So that's kind of a nice feature. I like that because it doesn't allow them to skip things. They have to stay on task with the actual activities. All right, there we go. This is probably my favorite thing that we do. These are collaboration boards. And what this allows students to do, I can show them a video, I can show them a picture, I can ask them a question, and they get a quick response. And these are short responses. They just type in a quick answer or their ideas on things. They can actually insert pictures in these. They have a lot of things they can do with this. I also, the little insert up here, I have the ability to control how it is shown. They can pop up automatically if it's something, or if I want to approve it before it goes on the screen, I have that option as well. And even my the self-paced students can kind of see these as they go through. And that can generate discussion. I find that the kids, once they've typed an answer down, they're more willing to talk about it. So you're more willing to get that discussion going. The other reason I like this is because often I teach a lot of honors students, and they will sit and let the students who always love to answer the questions, they'll let them answer the questions and they'll sit back. And this doesn't allow that to happen. This makes everybody kind of jump in and give an answer, and then we can talk about them. And I think that does a really nice job of getting everybody involved in these lessons. I also love the part, whereas if we're talking about something like we're going to be doing Hamilton versus Jefferson and some ideas in that as we're coming forward, they can click on the little hearts if they like someone's argument. So they can kind of interact with each other as well in some of these. I also wanted to point out the little arrows here on the side. That's what the person who's self-directed, they see that too, as I said. I don't know if I said that or not. But yeah, so they can put more than one of these up, and we can kind of fill the whole page, and then they can kind of scroll down. So that's a collaboration board. Or we can do a more open-ended question. Now, I like doing this with essay skills. So I could tell them to write an introduction. They could have some time to write out their introduction. I can see them with their names, but then I could see one and share it back out to the class. And I can choose, I basically let them say, do we want to show names? Do we not want to show names? We kind of talk about that, but I can turn the names off so they just get a sample, and then we can talk about it as a class. What grade would you give this? How would you work this out? Where could we improve this? So it's a safer environment to do that kind of critical analysis of each other's work. So that's worked well too, and I really like that. Sometimes when we're doing notes, you just want to make sure they're kind of going along with you. So you can do a fill in the blanks where they have to actually, and this could be like a little test at the end. It could be, accessing knowledge before, what do they know? And basically you copy paste the set of whatever you're going to talk about and highlight the words that you want to make into the word bank. It goes down to the bottom and the students then just drag them up where they think. And I get feedback on how many they got right. So I get like all the information on what they got right, what they got wrong, and then we can talk about it. So that's a nice way to keep them involved in those notes, especially ones that, maybe it's something that they're not as excited about. And this keeps them from kind of wandering off a little bit. Those are the ones that I have used the most, but I wanted to kind of showcase some of the other things that Nearpod can do. On the left is a matching. So kind of like where we're talking about vocabulary cards, this one is actually a foreign language where it's matched with a picture and the students have to pick the matches out of the kind of like the old matching game we did when we were kids. But you could also do that with a definition and a term. So you make these, you put the pictures in or whatever as you're making this slide, and you can interact with it in any way you want. In the upper right-hand corner, I have some of the drawing things brought in because I wanted to show this can be used at all age levels. But even for kids at the high school level to say, draw what you think about something, it gets them thinking about it in a different way, and then they kind of get excited about it and, are doing that. The final thing down at the bottom are the virtual field trips. And those are, if you've ever done the 360 views, Nearpod has a whole library of 360 views that you can use. And those go onto the kids' Chromebooks, and then they control what they're looking at. So every kid can be looking in a different direction and kind of looking around and, getting a feel for it. I used this when we were doing the Battle of Bunker Hill because there was one for the Bunker Hill Monument and the memorial that is there. So I put them there and you could see they all got interested and they were seeing like, here's where the British came up and here's where this happened. So it's kind of, getting them out of the classroom when we're kind of everything is so shut down, we kind of are able to escape a little bit with something like this. So as you can see, just from these short things, and those are the few that I kind of brought in, it's just a way that I'm trying to kind of get the students a little bit more interactive in class. And seems to me that all the students, I teach 9 through 12, they like this kind of thing. They like this interaction, and it brings them back in and gets them involved in the lessons a little bit more.
That's great. Do we have any questions for Carrie? Wow. Thank you very much, everybody. Mr. Loria, we're very proud of Natalie and Christina, Carrie, and James, and we thank them for their presentations today. And I would just like to add how impressed I am with your hard work and your commitment to providing our students with the best quality experiences that we can during this pandemic. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It was very impressive. Very impressive. Can I go back to special education? Okay, we want to come back to this section once. Yep. So we will go to special education with Cheryl Cardone.
All right, good evening, everyone, again. I have just 2 quick items. If I could have a program program approval for the CSC and CPSC program recommendations, I would appreciate it.
If we could have a motion for items A and B, please. And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0.
Thank
you. Welcome. Nothing under policy. That brings us to the superintendent's report.
Good. Thank you very much. For our board tonight, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the district SAVE manual, which is on our district website. This is an annual document that we update and work with BOCES and our principals in updating this. It's important if we could get a motion tonight to approve that, and then next year you will see this on our agenda in August.
Motion for item A. In the second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you very much. So at this time, I'd like to just give the board an update. It's a COVID-19 update under the superintendent report. Today, as the board knows and our community is aware, out of an abundance of caution, we did make a pivot from hybrid at Huth Road Elementary School to 100% remote for the remainder of this week. This was done due to 2 new positive cases that we became aware of today, this afternoon and this morning at Huth. These 2 new cases brings us up to a total of 4 cases at Huth since October 26th. As the board knows, when cases like this come up, Cheryl Cardone works very carefully with our school building principals and also with the Erie County Department of Health to make sure that the contact tracing moves forward in an excellent manner. I believe that at Huth we've had several personnel as well as students end up being quarantined over the last 2 weeks. So right now our plan is to bring those students back next Monday, and Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday use our custodial and cleaning crew to make certain that every space is addressed through cleaning and disinfecting at the school throughout this week. Does the board have any questions about this?
Are you going to go over what plans we have in place to teach our kids virtually? And looking for any new standards or thoughts into what they're going to do when we're out? So if you can just touch on.
Yeah. For the next, those 3 days, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, the teachers at Huth will follow their Wednesday virtual schedule for the students.
So Brian, does that mean they're in the school teaching or are they out of the school teaching?
For this, we would like to empty the school and make certain that our cleaning and custodial crew have access. If there's a special circumstance that a teacher needs to come into their classroom, then they'll confer with the principal.
So any teacher who is, all teachers this week are teaching remotely?
For Huth starting tomorrow.
At their home or other place? Or...
Correct. So the next thing I'd like to share with the board is a chart that I've been working on. So let me just pull that up for a second. I want to thank Karen Surdike for helping me last Friday on this chart. So let's see if that'll pop up for everybody. So this is just really for the board's information and the community. What I did was I went back every week since March. I've been writing a COVID-19 update for our all faculty and staff, and a lot of this data is coming from a website that is sponsored by the Erie County Department of Health, which shares with the community the number of cases in each of the communities around Erie County. So what I did simply was I took September 4th, and at that time there were 152 positive cases on Grand Island since March. And I made another column and referred to that column as week-to-week net change, so we kind of made this a baseline of 0. And then for September 11th, there was an increase of 4 cases from September 4th to September 11th. And that resulted in a 2.6% increase on Grand Island. So as we move through this chart, you'll see that each week there was either 4 increases on the island or 3 increases on the island. For whatever reason, on October 2nd, there was a 7% increase, or a net change of 12 positive cases, and then on the 9th. Back down to 4, back down to 4 on the 16th, back down to around 5 on October 23rd. Then on October 30th, there was a jump of 11 cases, or 5.8%. And then as of November 6th, it went from 11 cases to a jump of 25 new cases on Grand Island. So a 12% percent change from 1 week to the next. That change is represented in this graph here. What's important for the board to know that there's missing data. This is limited data. We would love to be able to do more, and the data is not available to town supervisors or town boards or school boards. And what we've been asking for consistently as a group of superintendents is we would love to see the zip code data and understand the positivity rate in our own zip code over a 7-day rolling average. And that's just not, that data is just not available to superintendents or town officials at this time.
Has not been made available.
It has not been made available.
It is available.
It certainly exists, correct.
It just has not been made available.
I would agree with
There's
that.
a distinction to that, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you're posing the questions to the powers to be, what type of answers are we hearing?
It's been either no, or we're not sharing that data. There's no, there has been no positive feedback that we've received when we've requested that data.
And your request to be made specifically to who?
The Erie County Department of Health.
So the Erie County Department of Health, who supposedly comes within the realm of our Erie County supervisor, right? Phone person, right? Is it one or the other that needs to release this data?
Is it the?
Who, in your opinion, who, and if I want to ask somebody to release this data, who should I ask? And
I would
who in-
start with the governor's office
And
and
who in
then.
town government can I ask to help us,
Sure.
help that information be released?
I think it would be wise for town governments and superintendents to work together on some type of formal request, whether it's a resolution at a future board meeting or a formal request to release the zip code 7-day positive information that I think is critical for all zip codes so that we understand, how difficult or challenging is that data. So I think it would be wise for town officials and school officials to work together on that.
If anybody is listening who's on board, I would hope they would.
Sure.
So besides that, Glenn, we're gonna have a joint meeting. And I think it would be probably beneficial, Brian, if you could reach out to our supervisor, John Whitney, and have a conversation, and maybe between the two of you could, maybe come up with a plan or
We'll reach out
a discussion, at our meeting. And, it's only a couple weeks away. If we could have something in order with both Brian and John working collectively, and something that could be presented to both us as a school board and our town board, might be beneficial. But they're basing so much information in these zones on these zip codes, it just seems unfair, for lack of a better word, that we can't see the information that they're basing the decisions of everything.
Well, and further to that, I think that in my mind, the information by this zip code is important, but further to that is why are the numbers being, multiplied, and why is the spread happening? Okay, because clearly, given the decisions that are being made, okay, school districts are being targeted as being the spreaders because school districts are being asked to test. And Walmarts aren't, grocery stores are not, businesses are not, school districts are.
Hospitals aren't.
Hospitals aren't. So based upon that decision-making process that came from the governor ultimately, okay, he has decided that school districts are the reason for the spread, because no other group throughout New York State is being asked to test 20% of the population other than the school districts.
And they even
So give some justification for that. If there's justification for that, I can understand that, and that's something I can support.
do they give any indication, where does the test result count? So for example, if I'm a Grand Island teacher, but yet I lived in Buffalo or West Seneca, I test positive, do I count the school I'm working in?
Sure.
Community I live in, both?
Who are my contacts with, right?
Right, so this website has been maintained by the Erie County Department of Health since the beginning of March. And I know Jude takes a screenshot once a week. I write about it weekly to our faculty and staff. And it shows, Jay, I think to your question, the 223 cases that were deemed positive on Grand Island. So Jay, to your question, if you live on Grand Island, maybe contracted COVID in the city of Buffalo, it's still being attributed to Grand Island. Now, this is an excellent website. I would ask that the Erie County Department of Health and the New York State Department of Health build a similar website to show by zip code the 7-day rolling average of positive tests or positive persons who have been deemed having COVID. This would also help us as a community, educate the community related to what the governor has already told us with the microcluster action initiative. If we knew that we were approaching going orange or red, we could communicate, not only myself, but John Whitney and our school boards and town boards, communicate to our constituents, letting them know the danger of the positivity rate getting higher in our zip code, which could result in an orange or red shutdown of businesses and worship places of worship. So this is, again, the website that we've been looking at all along, and now we need something better by our Department of Health to support our ability to educate the community. So I just want to show, I think there's one more thing I want to show here. Give me a second. So clearly, I showed you this chart. It clearly shows, visually the change of cases on Grand Island. And this is the chart that the county executive showed in his press conference this afternoon, or he put on his Twitter account. And basically, I've been explaining to the Board of Education for the past couple board meetings the micro cluster action initiative. Well, it appears as though there's been a pivot by the Erie County Department of Health, and they're no longer talking about a micro cluster, but they have made a macro cluster and painted all of these townships yellow. Okay. So as you can see, Grand Island and Tonawanda and Amherst, Clarence, Lancaster, and all of these other townships are now deemed as yellow. So as a group of superintendents, we're trying to understand our role and responsibility as this entire region has been painted or put into a yellow cluster. Does anybody have a question about this change?
Yes, and we're now speak about what our reaction to that is.
Sure. Yes. So you mean mine or yours?
Well, I mean, at the moment, as I understand it, at some point in time, I don't know the definitive time, schools in the yellow cluster need to test 20% of staff, student, and
faculty, staff, and students, correct.
And in Grand Island, that amounts to approximately 600.
Yep, anywhere between 500 and 600, depending.
500 to 600 people a week.
Right.
Okay. And the original governor's order seemed to suggest that that tests were going to be provided, which, to my knowledge, they have not been provided. And two, that the school district is supposed to figure out, without any much guidance, in terms of how to implement that. Given that school districts do not generally engage in testing their students for diseases, these matters. So, do we have any answers on any of that at this point in time?
Okay, thank you. That was a great summary.
It's a leading question.
That was great. So, after the governor spoke at 11:30 and Mark Pollenker spoke at about 1 o'clock, all of the superintendents in Erie 1 and Erie 2 BOCES, so all of Erie County, met with Dr. Fusco and Dr. O'Rourke. to talk about these new developments. And we are expecting that the Erie County Department of Health is supposed to provide us with additional guidance on how they would like us to move forward with this initiative. I can tell you and the community and the board that this is exceptionally challenging, almost impossible. And something has to change, you know, whether or not our school district could test 500 to 600 individuals in 1 week without partnering with some other larger entity is beyond, you know, some logistical comprehension. I think that it might be feasible if the mandate was not 20% and maybe it was 5%, you know, but I don't know statistically if that's what they're looking for. I can tell you that the federal government purchased 150 million Binax Now rapid tests. It is a shallow nasal swabbing. It's not the other swabbing or nasal, description that we've heard in the past. It's supposed to be a shallow nasal swabbing that once that nasal swabbing is secured, it's put into a placard. There's no other machines, and that placard requires 15 minutes to process or demonstrate whether or not the person is positive or negative. So imagine that 1 week here in Grand Island, we somehow had to test, let's say it's 600 individuals. If we took 600 individuals and multiplied that by 15 minutes just for the length of time that the placard is supposed to provide the results, that's an incredible amount of minutes in a given week. Divided that by 60, it's, you know, an incredible number of hours. So that would mean, technically speaking, we might need 25 certified individuals to test 600 people in an 8-hour day. So where do we find 25 certified individuals to test, 600 people in an 8-hour day? I don't know. I don't know how to do that. So can we do, half of that in 2 days or a third of that in 3 days? Maybe. Some districts like Niagara Falls have applied to become a limited service laboratory. So, superintendents might reach out to Mark Laurie to find out exactly how he would do this. Right now, Niagara Falls is not painted in that yellow cluster yet. So I'm not sure if he has a plan on how he would address the 20%. I do know that some other districts are considering applying to become a limited service laboratory, but there's more information, more research for us to get as a result of that. And of course, as a superintendent, we're going to do everything, our district will do everything to figure out if this is even possible, but right now it's a monumental task.
I would ask Brian, you and your group and through other town board people, et cetera, to ask, why are school districts being separated out from the rest of the group? Because at this point in time, to my knowledge, school districts have not been responsible for the increased testing results. Okay? But nonetheless, someone has made a decision that school districts are going to be focused as the party who is responsible for testing people, okay, testing young adults, okay, or kids who probably are less susceptible to long-term health issues from my limited knowledge of the issue, and B, okay, are likely not going to want to get tested. Okay, so we got to tell our parents, if their kids want to stay in school, they got to get tested. I'm positive that, and I think that some students here may have already spoken to this, they don't want their kids to get tested. Okay, so why are schools being the focus on this? The governor, who's a really smart guy, I hear, okay, why is he being the guy who is making this decision without any information? Ask him.
Sure, and I can tell you that as a group of superintendents, we're disappointed in the fact that we're not getting support or assistance with this mandate. So there's a lot going on with communicating the things that you're talking about. I think we could hypothesize, on why schools are being targeted. But right now, I think the reality is this is going to be very difficult in Erie County. I will say that in Broome County, they were also in a yellow zone, and the Erie and Niagara school superintendents that I'm a part of have reached out to the superintendent in Endicott to talk about their experiences, and it's been very, very challenging. On the upside, they have seen a decrease in their positivity rate, but it's been a monumental task for a smaller school district in that area.
So I guess I have sort of a similar point of view, different viewpoint. What happens if you don't test? I will tell you, my son said, keep me home, I'm not being tested, right? And as a rule follower, I said, you need to be tested, you're gonna go to school. But let's ask the question. And then what happens if our parents don't allow them to be tested? And what if our teachers don't want to be tested? Who's paying for it? If we're gonna spend extra money, we're gonna put teachers and resources into our classrooms to educate our kids. We're not gonna spend the money on some mandate to test 20% of our staff and our students.
Yeah.
So what I think we need to be doing, instead of asking why are we being targeted, say we don't want to be targeted, and be on the forefront of it. Somebody get a letter to the governor and say, why and no, right? Like, push back. I mean, I get that you're disappointed, and I'm disappointed, and I'm not directing this at you. I'm frustrated in the whole situation. But he just keeps handing out this crap, and we just take it. And here's a situation where our numbers are not bad. It's holding way better than anybody thought. We were supposed to be closed in 2 weeks. Our numbers are decent. We should be looking at it from a different point of view. And I'm gonna tell you, if our kids were in any danger, I would shut the front door.
There's been no evidence that there's been any spread from one student to another in our district at this point in time, I believe.
Okay.
Well, and I would also say that I don't want the government to spend
People are
money.
gonna get it, but it's not being spread through the school district, period.
If there's gonna be money outlay.
And that map is actually proof that it's not getting spread through the school district. Because if Buffalo's 100% remote, then what are all those dots on the map? That's not schools?
It's not. They're 100% remote.
Has there been discussion, Brian, of the superintendent's
Private
group,
schools
the
are
Erie and Niagara Falls superintendent's groups, writing a letter to the governor? Has there been any discussions amongst when your group talked today about the superintendents collectively sending a letter to the governor saying, this is another unfunded mandate that you're handing schools? They've already cut our budget 20%, so we're losing $4 million this year that we have no idea how we'll make up in our budget. We have no idea how we're going to make that up. So we don't have the money right now to fund the budget that we have for this year if they're withholding the 20%. And now there's another unfunded mandate from the state that's coming down, and we have to figure out how to, and we don't need to have permission for parents to test children. And on top of that, I'm assuming they're going to provide the tests, but we don't have the manpower to do this. We don't have the personnel, like you said, the certified personnel. So is there a way that the superintendents could send a letter collectively through county superintendents or Erie and Niagara?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Brian, I'm more, if there is a determination of a community spread in a zip code, and we haven't been provided zip codes right now, then I can certainly understand test the people in the zip code. Okay, but don't put it on the school districts if there isn't some evidence that that's the cause of the spread. Okay, because there's a lot of other reasons why that could be happening. Okay, the city of Buffalo hasn't had schools open. West Seneca hasn't had schools open. Okay, but they're in the yellow zone. So what's the difference between West Seneca and Grand Island? So we have to do 20% testing because apparently we have an issue. West Seneca does not, they're already virtual. Buffalo's already virtual. They're in the same zone.
I just think
Don't
our time and
make a
money
distinction.
could be spent on better things than testing your kids. And
Correct.
And I think the governor needs to get it loud and clear.
Correct.
Right. I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward to working with John Whitney too, to see how we can collaborate on the communication, whether it's through the Erie Niagara School Superintendents or our board in the town. Clearly, this is a monumental mandate that is unfunded and almost impossible to accomplish. So there's, clearly room to push back, but I just, we can do that. But I also see that if we're not participating in the mandate, we might have to pivot to 100% virtual teaching and learning.
I think it would carry a lot of weight if it came from a whole group of superintendents. I mean, I just can't imagine that other school districts are happy with this mandate either.
No, nobody's happy.
Certainly receiving a letter like that from all or a good majority of superintendents saying that this isn't something we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that has been verbally communicated with the Erie County Department of Health as well.
Is there anything we as a school board can do to help you in those efforts?
Sure, I think it would be great if the town and the school board worked together on a resolution that was passed indicating, why this is an impossible mandate to accomplish.
I would certainly be happy to coordinate that with you and John Whitney and others.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So thank you for at least, listening to these changes. These are changes that are occurring on a daily basis. And as you can see, my report changed for you as a result of the governor's press conference and the executive's press conference today. I know this meeting is running a little long. I do want to mention that there is a New York State travel advisory that has also changed and started on November 4th. And I'm sure everybody's aware that travelers entering New York State after being in another state for 24 hours or longer must take a COVID-19 diagnostic test within 3 days prior to departure from that state. So there's a lot of information here. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but it's just important for people who are considering traveling out of state, whether there are faculty and staff or parents, that there are special and new advisories on returning back to the state if you've been out of the state for more than 24 hours. Does the board have any questions about that advisory? All right, thank you very much.
Can I just ask you a
Sure.
question? Since we did go together today, do we have something in place with elementary and the high school? Should we go to Orange or have to go?
You mean like a teaching learning schedule? Yeah, we have a draft, but it'll be finalized this week.
Okay, will that be posted on the website for the parents?
It could be posted on the website. It could also be communicated by each principal to their students and parents.
Thank you. All right, on to the Board of Education report. I have a legislative team meeting report attached. There is a legislative breakfast this Saturday, in which I will ask our representatives if we can have something by zip code to show a 7-day rolling average for the positivity information. I'm also going to strongly advocate for not having schools targeted for the testing. And I know that we did have testing at the school where I work, but it was the health department coming in, providing the personnel, the resources, and everything else to do the testing, and it was voluntary. And it worked out fine, but again, it was not our school district providing those resources. So I am going to ask about that, and if there's anything else that the board would like me to communicate. I know the other thing that we've discussed as a board has been the state providing a plan for reopening. We have plans for when we would close, how that would look, what the parameters are for closing, but we don't have any plan as to what the parameters are for reopening fully 5 days a week. So I will ask that that plan also be communicated, like we have plans for closing due to high rates of infection.
Well, I guess the other thing that we talked about being communicated through a resolution was to let the government, to let them know that what they're doing is not good enough for our kids, right? Like, not necessarily a reopening plan, but if we're gonna stay hybrid or we are going to go virtual, what can they provide to make it better? Like, you know, we're asked all the time, why can't you rent space? Why can't you do this? Why can't we hire more teachers? Why, you know, questions after questions. First of all, you know, the money's involved. I mean, the logistics is hard, difficult too with nursing and busing and cleanliness and different people in the buildings that we can't control.
We have to have a
But they-
certificate of occupancy
Well,
too.
I'm just saying that they need to know what they're doing is not good enough. And the education we are providing our students, although our teachers are doing a great job and we continue to look at how we are educating our kids, it's not good enough, right? And we're almost at a full year. And my guess is it's gonna be a year and a half, probably not till September if our kids are back in the classroom full time. It's not good enough. So they need to step up and figure out a plan that works, that our kids are educated, obviously. And with that said, I mean, you know, we can sit here and talk about our teachers having videos and all that other stuff and put in regulations, but that shouldn't be how our kids are being educated. And it comes from the state level.
And they're missing a lot out of the school experience.
Correct.
In
The mental illness, the isolation.
In every grade level, they're missing.
Absolutely.
And all of us have kids in the district or otherwise. That experience that they're missing won't be replaced, okay? I mean, that's something that I think needs to be understood at some level.
Yeah, the mental illness that is occurring and I know everybody, you know, takes a look and says, you know, elementary is important, middle school is important. They're all important. They all have their benefits in different ways for the kids to have the knowledge and the experience to continue on, not only in their education, but in life in years to come. So I really think as globally, our kids are not being educated, and they are being educated, but not to the level that they deserve. And I think that the legislature needs to know that, and it's the state level. All we can control here is how it's being done in the situation we've been given. But I think, you know, I don't know, Glenn, if you wrote up that resolution.
I did not, there's been a lot of stuff going on that has kind of, you know, placed my focus on other things, like not keeping us from being focused 100%. But that's something that certainly I think is important. You know, the school is more than just one school. It's a social experience, everything about it, okay? It can, in the short term, perhaps, you know, it works out. It's heartening to see a kindergarten kid who doesn't meet friends in kindergarten and a junior in high school who is missing, you know, many experiences. So it's something that, you know, needs to be addressed in some sense. You know, social interaction and everything else that goes along with school. Okay, it's not just learning stuff, and I think everybody will agree with that. It's about the whole interaction in school. Okay, I don't think anybody here, I hope and expect, will not remember something from their formative years of school, okay? They met their best friend in kindergarten, second grade, third grade, whatever it is, okay? It's all part of our life, and if that's missing, which is gonna be missing if we don't do something about it, that's a tragedy. We gotta figure that out. You have to make sure that the people in power know about that, not you. You talk to people.
Government level.
Government level.
But, you know, I don't know if you can help communicate that as well. I just think, you know, no matter where you are in education, there are 4 good years, right? It all sets you up for the next, you know, part of your life, and you're missing it. And, you know, there's gonna be no way to make that up.
Okay, anyone have anything else? I know that, I think we all feel the same way in terms of this is very disheartening. I will communicate about the zip code. I will communicate about the, the importance of having in-person instruction 5 days and the fact that cutting the budget by 20% is going to help make any school district make that happen. And I will also ask that they, look at how can we make the schools opening, have a plan for schools reopening. Okay, we also have a PTA council report from Sue. No?
It's up.
Okay, it's on the report, so you can review that. We talked about the hybrid models. That brings us
We can go
to,
back to that. Please.
go back to
The hybrid.
the hybrid model, okay.
When we
We
finish.
can go back to the hybrid model discussion we had earlier.
Well, we had presentations, and I would just like to add the presentations were fantastic. And I guess I just want to say, are we taking a look at our rising stars that we put here at our Board of Education and using those examples in other grade levels and other schools to maybe model some other classrooms in the same way? I love that the algebra teachers are, every day there's something for the kids to watch. I just, for me, that should be a no-brainer. And as we're looking towards going 100% virtual, I think that in front of teacher is important. I know my son's math teacher does it in the 8th grade, and it's fantastic. And what he does is he somehow, and I haven't actually looked at it, but I think it's his paper that he's writing on. Well, he gives instruction for his first class, and then he sends it out to the rest of the kids to watch for the day. As our governor continues to make new mandates, it's coming down the pipe, we're going to be closed, and it's going to be 100% virtual, and we need to be ready. And I think we need to start talking about guidelines and our expectations and, what we think a typical day should look like. I know for some of the younger kids, maybe, not being on a computer all day, is advantageous for them, but, my 8th grader, he can do it because he does it on Wednesdays and he doesn't have any problems. And I just think that we need to really take a look at it and get as much instruction from the teacher as possible to our kids, whether it's recorded or otherwise.
I know that the schedule is in draft form. Brian, did you have any idea as to how many hours a day, if we were fully remote, would be direct instruction from the teachers? And would it look like it does on Wednesdays, or would it look like would it be like attending on your hybrid day when your students attend school on Monday and Thursday, or a Tuesday and Friday?
Yep, each principal has been working with their teacher leaders to fine tune and edit some of the guidelines and suggestions and expectations that we're talking about. I have a meeting actually tomorrow afternoon with Youth and Kegabine, and then next week with Sidway. And I know that Mr. Fitzpatrick and Mr. Laurie are also working with their teacher leaders. So there will be a very definitive schedule that I think will benefit the students at every age.
I know we were getting the Chromebooks in November. Do we have the Chromebooks for the other grades? I think it was the 2nd grade.
Sure.
We're getting Chromebooks.
Yep, and I'm gonna ask, I don't know, Ruby, if you had a chance to reach out to the vendor. We did get some bad news that the vendor was delayed in distributing the order that we put in place. It was originally supposed to come to us at the end of October. In fact, one of our IT specialists contacted the vendor to ask if we could add 40 more devices to our order, and that is when we discovered that they were further back ordered. But Ruby, I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to speak with the vendor yet.
I do not have an update specifically from the vendor. I have worked very closely with Robin in discussion of are there alternative options in reference to the short notice or lack thereof of notice of the Chromebook change that occurred. The original model that we were attempting to purchase is not available. They changed it to a different model, which is a bit of an upgrade model for the same price, which is nice. But everything from this company we were working with is pushed out, I'd say about 2 months, maybe a little bit sooner than that. We have been in communication with them about the possibility of canceling the order if we're able to find an order that is able to do something quicker, but we just seem to be hitting some walls. But we are doing some research to see what other options are.
And both Ruby and Brian, and what's the alternatives for kindergarten and first grade with respect to remote learning if we go completely virtual?
The alternative without a mobile device?
Well, yeah, is there mobile devices at that level? I don't think there is at the moment.
So that's our order. Our order is for kindergarten and first grade.
Okay, so right now,
So,
and second grade or no?
no, kindergarten and first grade.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
asked and answered, thank you.
They have, I think, 5 kids, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you mean the Sidway? The students? No. So parents are using their own devices right now.
Okay, so kindergarten and first grade at the moment have no devices.
Correct.
We're waiting for Chromebooks, which
We put an order in the
are
summer.
pushed out to a couple of months perhaps.
And I think, Ruby, one of the tasks that you were going to take on was contacting the vendor as well to, try to influence the vendor.
Yes. Communicating with the vendor. I have a couple of things. I won't say I'm on a public recorded meeting, but I have a couple of my own thoughts just with the process of the information. One of the things that they have almost like an online portal where you can see where your order stands. And that portal kept saying we were on track for our order. I know our meeting, I believe it was when we were at Sidway with the Board of Education, Dr. Graham had given an update. So that update was given based on the information being on an on-time order. And it kind of fell upon us through a request for adding to the order that, oh, your order is not going to be here. So I did not like that avenue of communication. So we will be seeing what all we can do or benefit from the mishap. I think the only way that it could be pushed closer is seeing if other vendors have things available. I do know Robin has reached out to other districts who are in similar areas of need and what those vendors are saying. And actually what was provided in one of the emails from the vendor was that a lot of places don't even want to give an estimated timeout because they've been having issues reaching those deadlines that they've been setting.
Do we have any update on our tents? Have we received our instructions so we can put them up?
Ruby, I believe that at least one tent has been put up, but maybe you could give us an update.
I do know that the training occurred. Beyond that, I'm not sure. I can gather that information and I can send the board an email tomorrow. But I do know that the company was able to set up a training component with our buildings and grounds. I did see the emails going back and forth for that.
It would be great to get a time frame and a schedule of when they're looking to have them up. I won't go into the colder weather now, but
Sure.
Can I get them up?
Can I ask any of the principals if a tent has been installed or erected on any of your school properties? I'm not sure if, I know Jim Rosler did say a tent was erected, but I'm not sure at which property.
Right.
So.
I'm gonna message
Brian,
him.
Yeah,
Brian,
yeah.
I don't know if it's still up, but they were trying to put one up between the cafeteria and the Mr. Praise room, but I don't know if it's still there.
Right,
That
we'll
might
check.
have been your training session.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments regarding the hybrid model?
I'm just gonna say, I really liked Mrs. Gallagher and her partners' way of doing it, so the kids really had to see the math and see the teacher doing the math every day. I think it's really hard for kids to learn math from a video. I mean, even as an adult, I think it's hard to learn math from a video, and I'm sure many parents have experienced trying to learn math from the video, actually seeing the teacher do it, and having the kids log in with the teacher, I think really helps those students. I really liked
Yeah.
the way that they were teaching math in the presentation.
Okay, there's nothing else. Moving on to the public comment session, general items not included in this agenda. At this time, public comments are invited from individuals who desire to address the Board of Education on any topic which is on the agenda. Residents who have previously signed up to speak will be recognized by the president when speaking. Please identify yourself first, speak clearly and loudly enough for everyone in the room to hear you. Speakers are requested to limit their remarks to no more than 3 minutes, or to appoint a spokesperson if a concern is a group concern, and if necessary or desired, supplement verbal presentation with any reports. Personal comments toward a member of the community, staff, or Board of Education will not be considered appropriate. Up first, we have Nicole Gerber.
I think my knees are on. Just kidding. Good evening, can everyone hear me? Okay, thank you. First, it's a non-COVID topic I'm talking about, and it was a topic on the agenda, so I don't know if that's still okay, because I initially emailed the school to talk about it. But first, I work at a hospital. I just want to commend everyone, from the parents to the students to the board and everyone who's working on this COVID issue. It's a challenge in so many ways, and my heart goes out to you, but I commend you for the time, the work, the efforts. I feel your pain. But my topic that I want to speak to tonight was about the solar proposal. My name is Nicole Gerber, and I'm here to talk about the solar proposal because I'm not only a 6th generation alt, and my alt family has lived on the island from the 1860s, but our property is right next to the proposed solar farm. Having seen my great-grandfather go through town politics, planning board, he's been a justice of the peace, it's kind of in the family tradition to feel the responsibility to work to protect the cultural heritage of Grand Island and the green space that's always defined our island. I've grown up on Grand Island. I was educated in the Grand Island schools from kindergarten through senior year, and I really feel that the teachers in the school system continue to represent the values that I was taught by teachers years ago, who inspired me to learn more about topics such as science and the environment. And then I realized as I get older, that positive education, as we've been talking about, positive early education we get, can truly influence lifelong learning and cultivate a sense of responsibility. My husband and I are actually working on an agreement with the West New York Land Conservancy to create a conservation easement on our 33 acres of land. This means it will always remain green space and will never be developed. This is one small way we're giving back to the community and to ensure that the environment is protected and preserved for future generations of people, plants, and animals. We met with Brian and Ruby a year ago to recommend that the school also consider a similar conservation easement for their property that's currently under consideration now for the solar farm. Also, in realizing the ecological importance of both properties, we had reached out previously to the school superintendent and administration for the past 4 years to talk about the logging and the clearing of the land that's been happening. We had asked if there are RFPs that have been put out for the logging, never received anything, and we kind of laughed and said we actually would have put a bid on the logging or the RFP of clearing the land to actually protect the trees. Such losses, as you see, are continuing across the island, and so for us, working to preserve and protect green spaces across the island is a priority that we as a community should all consider. So we look for the school to actually consider being a steward of the land and the island ecosystem by considering a conservation easement on the property. We do know, as you've seen through the master planning process, the town of Grand Island, the people of Grand Island actually repeatedly cite that green space and protection of the environment are their central concerns.
30 seconds.
I had sent an email to the school board specifically with documentation and such, so I won't get into that. But they're basically, with the studies that have been done on our property through the West Ark Land Conservancy, there is a unique ecological system, the wet oak hickory forest type that's on your property, the school property, as well as the property that's our property that's adjacent to yours. And we look for the Grand Island School District to actually reach out to the West Ark Land Conservancy. They have sent letters and they indicated to the school board about property preservation on Grand Island. And we hope that the school continues to work to look at all best land use options for this piece of property. And we continue looking forward to working with you to discuss the opportunities that would protect the green space. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mike Madigan.
Okay, so sitting through this meeting, right after the parents spoke, as they were speaking, they were very concerned about a current crisis that's affecting their children, both in terms of mental health and in terms of their education. Less than 3 minutes in, at 30 seconds, at 15 seconds, you warn them that they had to stop speaking. You cut them off. While they're talking about something very important, they were begging for a plan regarding how you're going to mitigate the problems that they're currently experiencing, mental health wise and otherwise with their children. And they were begging for a plan, something that was substantial. Immediately following that, we suffered 45 minutes intensely focused like a laser beam on a solar farm. 45 minutes. We're in the middle of a crisis. You guys, your top priority apparently is a solar farm? Did anyone stop and say, hold it, what are we doing? Why are we prioritizing this over these concerns that you're hearing? And uninterrupted, you went 45 minutes. I timed it. A gentleman got up and stormed out of here. He was so upset about it. He told me, this is unbelievable. You need to focus like a laser beam. This is a crisis. There's a lot of underprivileged kids. There's other kids that just are, I've gone through remote training before, classwork. I struggle with it. There's a lot of kids, probably a third to a half, that aren't successful at learning remote. You know it, we know it. Having people stand up, I'm sure they're doing a great job, kudos, and I'm not faulting them. But we can't be sitting here patting ourselves on the back. We gotta really, if you're not sitting here saying, what do we gotta do, and making decisions and talking about options, it takes me, I heard space is one of the concerns. We have a library, we have the Golden Age Center, ideal for classrooms, both sides, not in use currently for the most part. We have a library, we have a welcome center. There's space, so space, let's take that off the table. Logistics we got to resolve. How do we get the kids there? Talk about thoughts, plans, throw things up on the board. How do we get the kids back full time? Private schools are doing it. Why can't we? Why can't we? What's going on? Why you're not sitting here the entire time talking, can we do this? Can we do that? What about this? What about that? Going to New York State, we shouldn't be asking permission. We should be saying, we can do this safely. The surrounding private schools are doing it safely. We can do it without a problem, essentially most of them without a problem. This is what we're going to do. Don't ask permission, just say, this is what we're going to do. Thank you very much, goodbye, and do it.
20 seconds.
Thank you. Oh, answer to your question. I'm going to speculate. The reason why they're testing the kids, they got to support the reason why the partial shutdown is being driven by a misguided off-the-rails teachers union.
Yeah.
Julie D'Angelo, I spoke earlier and I agree with everything that you said. I'm sorry that I agree that that's important to you and it's something that needs to be addressed.
Hey, Julie,
I'm sorry, you're right.
we have a process. I think you signed up once already to speak.
Is there anything that says I cannot speak again?
Yeah.
You let someone speak for 45 minutes
I'm just
on
saying
solar.
we have a process.
Fine. I'm just telling you right now, and I want it to be heard, that I will do it myself. I will do a fundraiser to get whether they're used, whatever, Chromebooks for those kids that don't have it. This is absolutely ridiculous. The school should have done it by now. I don't know why PTA hasn't done it by now. The fact that we're saying it's another 2 months, I'll do it myself. I'm telling you right now, I'm
We need to
gonna do it
sign up
myself.
prior to the meeting. Just
Fine,
kind of
well,
get
it was
through.
her at the time of recording.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm doing it right now, goodbye. This is ridiculous.
So that brings us to committee of the whole items and information for the roundtable, starting with Glenn.
I got nothing for it.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you to the teachers that presented. I will also bring up the issue of space. Like, I don't know if emergency occupancy type things, but there's a lot of things at the legislative meeting to talk about. But, the idea of just using a Welcome Center, a Golden Age Center, or any other space, we need certificates of occupancy for that. That's something I will bring up at my legislative meeting. But I will also bring up the other items, the testing, the plan for reopening 5 days. I'll make sure to bring all of that up and report back to the board when I'm done with Saturday's breakfast. Do you have anything? Robin?
Nothing.
No? Joy?
I'm set for tonight.
Ruby? Dr. Harris? You're muted. I don't know if you have anything. Cheryl?
Sorry, my thing was hopping back and forth. I did want to say two things. I know we just asked about the tents. We just need to get the specific areas and those tents will go up. I will give a schedule so the board knows when they're going up, or if they may be up by the time we have the next meeting, but just so you're aware of the locations. And I don't think we have another meeting before Thanksgiving. So if I'm right about that, have a happy Thanksgiving. And if I'm wrong, then I'll just say that again.
No, you are correct. All right, Dr. Graham. Oh, sorry, Cheryl.
Oh, that's okay. Agreed with Ruby. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm all set, Ashley. Thank you.
Okay, just a couple reminders. November 11th is Veterans Day. There's no school. November 30th is our joint meeting with the town board at the Town of Grand Island courtroom at 7 p.m. December 14th is our Board of Education meeting. Right now it's scheduled at Kagabine Elementary School. If I could have a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting at 10:28 p.m., please. And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carried 7-0. Have a good night.